across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and a good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock, and coming up at midnight it is your opportunity to talk back. And what I want to talk to you about is the security of MPs, because obviously this whole situation with what's happened with Ann Widdecombe has got MPs talking about their own security. And Rupert Lowe of Restore is calling for state-funded security for all MPs. Reform is saying that if donations are capped, then that would be a disaster, because then MPs can't look after themselves. So it's all about the donations as well, because coming in front of the Commons this week is the representation of the People's Bill, which returns to the Commons, with 2 amendments to cap political donations. So I'm asking if political donations should be capped or scrapped, and if that they do tie in to none of the parties, by the way, want them capped. None of them. Labour doesn't want it capped either. They haven't got the backing of Downing Street. Nobody's interested in capping donations, which tells you something. It tells you that they should be capped. That's what it tells you. Anyway, I want to talk to you about that and about MP security. Are you happy to pay for MPs security? There are 650 of them currently sitting, if you like. But what about the thousands of ex-MPs? Because if you're going to extend it that way, then I'm pretty sure we can't afford it. But anyway, that's what I want to talk to you about at midnight. So do get ready to give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Those calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. So that's coming up at midnight. Just to let you know what else is in the programme, we have the fabulous man that is wise, Ed Wiseman. He's joining us to go through the papers. We will be reflecting on the life and the tragic death of Sam Neill, who was born with the name Nigel. It's good that he changed his name. I think Sam's a better name for a film star and a technical operator. Sandra Monetti is joining us to go through that a little bit later on. Angus Walker is joining us, I'm delighted to say, to go through some. We're not even going to get through all of the politics already this week, so we'll be chatting to him as well. But first, counter-terror police are now leading the investigation into the alleged murder of Ann Widdecombe after new information and evidence has come to light. The former MP was found dead at her home in Dartmoor last Thursday, and it is believed she was attacked at about 12:30 p.m. on the Wednesday. A 28-year-old man who was arrested on suspicion of murder has been re-arrested now on suspicion of commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism. Now, he was arrested at his home in Rotherham, South Yorkshire, on Saturday evening and is believed to have driven 300 miles to Widdecombe's home. And the images that are seen of him looks like he is carrying some kind of stick as he gets into the car. Now, it is worth pointing out at this point that he has been arrested twice on 2 different charges, but there have been no charges made yet. So he has yet to be charged with anything. Joining me now to discuss this rather perplexing case is Graham Wetton, who is a former Met police officer and author of How to Be a Police Officer. Graham, thank you so much for joining me. There's something really troubling about this entire situation, which I can't put my finger on. I just can't join any dots on this. It's a very fluid situation, isn't it, though?
Yeah, good evening, Petrie. Yeah, it is, but I think it shows, as the police have been saying, and they get a lot of criticism online, I think unjustly so. And I've said this before, either to yourself or in other interviews since this awful incident first happened, they have to follow the evidence. So this isn't about saying what you believe may have happened or even what you know may have happened. It's what you can prove. The reason that, and from the very first press conference that Devon Cornwall held, they were saying they were keeping an open mind. There was nothing at the time to support political motivation or anything else. They had no idea what the motive was at the time. It would appear, since they've made an arrest, and when you make an arrest, you can then search someone's address, look at their electronic devices. It's now escalated. They've clearly now found something that suggests a terror-related offence, which is why he's been further arrested for terrorism offences, which changes as well slightly his detention times, because the Terrorism Act gives the police longer to hold people in detention than Police and Criminal Evidence Act does.
Because they would have had to have released him if they weren't going to charge him by now on a murder charge.
Yeah, 4 days. Basically, you've got 24 hours initially, then 12 hours by a superintendent, and then it goes to a magistrate's court to get warrants of further detention. Effectively, the full total is 96 hours, and that clock is ticking. The relevant time, the detention clock is ticking all the time you're in custody. So at some point, you have to then either charge or release them. If you use up all of your detention clock, as in 3 out of 4 days, if you then want to bail somebody and bring them back, you've only got a limited amount of time before you've got to charge them. So Police and Criminal Evidence Act puts certain limitations time-wise on putting a charge to somebody. The Terrorism Act has got different time limits. So he's been rearrested for a terrorism-related offence, which changes his detention clock significantly.
What does that tell you then about the initial questioning of this suspect?
There's not an awful lot you can read into that, because he doesn't need to answer anything. He's entitled to have free legal advice. And if you watch any of the clips from people that are then eventually convicted and the police release like interview tapes, and in my experience, a significant number, that's where I'll go, a significant number of suspects decide to make no comment during an interview. They say nothing at all. It suggests to me that the search has found something that supports now a terror-related investigation, which is why he's been further arrested for commission, preparation, instigation of terror offences. So it would appear they followed the evidence as they said they were going to. They've kept an open mind. Now they've actually found something that supports a terror-related offence. They've handed the case over to the counter-terror police, who have been involved from the start. So they don't have to be brought up to speed or have a briefing or read through the notes, etc. They've been involved in the investigation from the start, because they can now, it would seem, they've got something that evidentially supports a terror type offence.
What do you make of the first arrest? I mean, there was a 26-year-old who was arrested first of all and released and no longer part of the inquiry. Okay, clearly he had substantial evidence that he wasn't involved. What do you make of that? And then the move to the 28-year-old who is currently in detention.
Again, and I don't want to start guessing or No,
it's just an interesting point to me, because it seemed they were so sure on the 26-year-old, and then they pivoted to somebody else.
Well, they had to have some evidence or some suspicions that he was involved, whether that's come from either a name given by a resident or a sighting, etc., or a regular visitor, without knowing the full facts of what they were given on that first day. In the first couple of days, they made a very swift arrest. So whether it was an individual that had access to the property, first of all, but in that arrest, they then, as I said, followed the evidence, and in a reasonably short period of time for detaining somebody for that type of offence, he was not only released, but actually almost like eliminated from the investigation.
Yeah.
They made it clear in the statement as well. So they've been quite definite in their actions so far, albeit they've made an arrest, a very quick arrest, and then followed the evidence again, and then clearly cleared him, eliminated from the investigation, and then refocused their attention on another suspect.
So the reports that we've heard is that there was CCTV footage of some description of the suspect's car in the local vicinity. Again, I'm just wondering why that wasn't their first point of call, that if if this car was outside Widdecombe's Rest, that wasn't their first thought. It
depends on what detail you've got of a car. a colour of a vehicle or a type of a vehicle. If you've got, it sounds, when people start almost like following their own evidential leads here, they imagine because they've got details of a car, they've got the whole index number, etc. But it may well be just a citing of a type of car, a colour of the car, etc. So without knowing the full details, said they clearly follow the evidence here. So for whatever reason, they've identified one individual first of all, made the arrest, investigated it, cleared them completely, then refocused on another individual. So maybe there was another piece of evidence that came in that actually clearly identified the actual vehicle involved, not one they believed it to be.
The other question is that the police were very reluctant to give any details of either of these two men, both suspects. And even so much as saying the only information they gave out that it was a white British man. Now, I'm guessing that is to prevent anybody jumping to conclusions about immigrants or... so we're now starting to see that much more often, aren't we, that the police, in order to keep public order, are releasing just the bare minimum, but saying a white British man.
Yeah, they never release the actual name or address of an individual until the point of charge, until they're charged with an offence. They've now had to start going down the rounds of a white British male, and that's probably the only thing that hasn't been suggested over the weekend.
Yeah.
Is that it wasn't a white British male, because they've said that from the very start. So that's almost like the only thing they've been able to negate, and it hasn't escalated on social media. It's the only thing that hasn't been alleged so far from what I've seen. I think clearly. And policing still needs to look at, I think when you're looking at these investigations, these major investigations, the senior investigating officer manages almost what's being released to the media, because that dictates then what evidence comes in and what they need to follow. They're working with a media team. Now, the media team may want to release more information. It's up to the senior officer to decide what gets released and when it gets released, because they know how their investigation is running. They're managing it. They're responsible for it, not the media team. And not the wider media. So there might be various demands coming in, and we've seen all sorts of speculation and guesswork on social media over the weekend. I think they've managed it well so far from what's been released. But as you've said, it's difficult sometimes to manage it. They have to follow the evidence, to deal with the facts. It's not just, as I said, what you know or believe, it's what you can prove. I think they've done a good job so far. It's now gone to the counter-terror command to deal with. They've got highly experienced detectives who know and understand terror-related offences. The legislation is quite different. Detention times are different. So it's right and proper that actually, when you realise this is beyond almost like our expertise, we've got the experts already on hand. Let's hand it to them now and let them take it forward. I think they've stepped away from it at the right time, having taken the investigation to a phase or a stage where now counter-terror command can take it on.
I mean, it must be very difficult these days, Graham, with, everybody wants the answer now, and everybody's watching every single move that the police make. It must be, that kind of spotlight on this kind of case must be really hard work for the police.
I think it is. I think they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. If they release information, they've released the wrong information. If they don't release information, they haven't released the right information. So whatever they say or do, and we've seen this all over the weekend, the speculation.
And it's minute by minute now, isn't it, for us?
It is minute by minute. But as I said, but that isn't a priority for the investigation team. That's not a priority for the senior investigating officer. They're trying to solve a case. They're not trying to feed information to the general public. And they have to be careful what they release as well, because they start releasing too much information or ask for help from the public on specific either vehicles or individuals, i.e. releasing pictures, etc. Identification is a key aspect of proving an offence and an individual committed that offence. I've dealt with numerous cases at Crown Court where identification becomes the main issue. Is that the person you saw? Can you confirm that is the individual you saw getting out of the car? Identification plays a real major part in many court cases. So police officers are naturally reluctant to disclose anything about identification evidence that may then be challenged when you get to court.
Because it can be prejudicial.
Absolutely.
And that answers my next question, because the police at one point said, we're not going to release any CCTV and we're not giving you further descriptions of the person that we want. And that is why. They had a good idea, obviously, who it was. They didn't need public help, so they kept all of that quiet.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's if they need the public's help to identify someone and locate them, and as we've seen on many other cases, they've done that. But you have to get to that stage where you've almost exhausted all possible police options to identify and then locate the individual. So almost like for down to getting to the senior investigation officer, I think the best option at this stage now is to put a public appeal out, and you'll see a CCTV image come out,
Yeah.
or even a name. But at that stage, they've almost like written up their rationale, their logic for doing that, and it's properly documented, and it can then be taken to court. And this is why we did this at this time. But they then have to manage very carefully the identification evidence that's then presented at court.
Just quickly, I mean, you heard me reading the cue there, the alleged murder. Now, there's no allegation that Ms. Widdecombe was killed. But are we saying alleged murder because there hasn't been a charge, or are we saying that in case there were mitigating circumstances? Could it be a manslaughter, for example? Is that why it's an alleged murder as opposed to an out-and-out murder?
It's always difficult for the public to like rationalise that phrasing, that when police officers or even journalists use the word alleged, alleged suspects, alleged murder.
It's very difficult.
It's because it hasn't, again, right to a fair trial, it hasn't been proved yet. It's, you know, you see things, CCTV images, etc., and then we throw the word alleged in. You're like, well, I've just watched it, so you know, I mean alleged, but it has to be proved. If there is a charge, it has to be proved at court. That's why you put that alleged word in, just as a caveat that at the moment, this is what we are alleging somebody's done. It's then up to the investigation team, the prosecution authorities to prove this at court.
What I wanted to touch on with you as well is this call now from, it's Rupert Lowe, but there will be others, who are suggesting that there is state-funded security for all MPs. And I just want to get an idea from you what we are looking at in terms, if we need to secure a person. I mean, that, from what I've understood, if you're securing somebody, then it's usually 6 teams of 2 people, 24 hours a day. The costs are millions of pounds. Is it even possible to have state-funded security, not just for all sitting MPs, but for all past MPs, as Ann Widdecombe was?
I think cost-wise that's not feasible. Resource-wise, it's not feasible. You could scale it down slightly, but then that's putting huge onus on the individuals doing it. There's not trained people involved. There are numbers involved. Cost-wise, you're right. If it's like 24/7 protection, then albeit you're not works alongside protection teams, you're not with your principal the whole time. Once they get into like and address their premises, you're like waiting outside or down the road or waiting to be called in. You only sort of like protecting them when they're at risk or something, like out in the public.
Yeah.
But it's still hugely costly, hugely resource intensive. And again, when does it stop? Does it stop when they stop becoming an MP, but they've still got a public profile? It's stuff they then said while they were an MP keep them at risk during the rest of their life. So I'm not sure that is that's an option personally. I think it has to be almost on a case by case basis. I think it's RAVIC that do the assessment, Home Office team that do the assessment for protection. They are experienced and well versed in looking at each individual and assessing if they reach the criteria, the threshold for needing full-time protection or even some protection depending on the risk threat to them. And that needs to be assessed periodically as well, because risk and threat does change.
Yeah.
You could go on TV or say something that suddenly puts you at the forefront of being at risk, or conversely goes the other way.
I mean, I've had threats. I have threats fairly. I mean, I don't go on social media anymore because if I don't see them, I don't know about them. But Talk actually took it very seriously and did searches on my address and did all of those things to make sure that I was safe. But it is impossible, isn't it, to protect anybody who's in the public eye all the time.
Yeah, it's a real tough job to do, and it has to be done based on risk, threat, etc. I think anybody. It seems anybody. I've had like thinly veiled threats to me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Stuff. So just the fact because of the profession I used to be. So I think if you take it more seriously, you wouldn't be able to protect everybody all the time. That's what it has to be for me on a case by case basis. It has to be based on what the threat is. That can change as well. It's hugely resource intensive and very, very costly. I think it's it sounds like a bit of a knee-jerk reaction at the moment, understandably, because emotions are running high.
Yeah.
But, you know, the investigation team don't run on emotion, they run on following evidence. And I think the same thing has to be done for you know, politicians' protection as well. Let's look at the evidence. Do some people need protection more than the others? Is that because of their profile or even what they say publicly? I think there needs to be a consciousness as well about what people are actually posting and saying online, because it's being read by everybody. And there's always a section of society that doesn't agree with you, and possibly doesn't agree with you quite forcibly.
Yeah, that's why I don't engage. I don't post anything, just in case. Just finally, Graham, what can we expect over the... I mean, I know this is crystal ball time for you, but if this evidence is substantial enough to rearrest this suspect, of course, that's what they'll be doing now. They'll be putting it to him, potentially with a lawyer there, all of those things. How long have they got on this terrorism charge, and what can we expect sort of in the next days or week?
Terrorism gives them 14 days in total, but they have to go to courts to get that extended. So it's got slightly different time periods than the offences under the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, which, as I said, is 96 hours. So they have 14 days in relation to the terrorism type thing. So my understanding, the terrorism relevant time overtakes the PACE relevant time. So they'll be working towards that time frame. They've got slightly longer to deal with him, but they'll work towards gathering the evidence and trying to prove ultimately still the initial offence, but it's like an added offence they're now investigating. So the preparation, instigation and commission of terror-related offences. There's still the murder, manslaughter, but the death of Ann Widdecombe to investigate and see if there's any offences or charges that can be laid there as well.
But it doesn't have to go before the CPS before an arrest, does it?
They've arrested him already, no.
A charge, sorry.
The CPS will decide any charges, yeah.
Right. Okay. So so there are some processes yet to go through, and it could be as long as 2 weeks.
Yeah, I might be wrong on this. I think if it's terror related, it goes to a special section, the counter-terrorism service. So that might change it slightly from any murder/manslaughter type charges, because there's now a terrorism angle on this. My understanding, I might be wrong, but my understanding is I think it goes to there's a different section that deals with terror related offences. They may well then take on board any other offences they've looked at as well.
Well, it certainly is a fluid situation. Thank you so much, Graham. You always explain things to me in a way that I understand them, so thank you. Graham was in there, former Met police officer and author of a book called How to Be a Police Officer. Quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you. So coming up at midnight, I want to talk to you about the security of our MPs, and do you think that that should be state funded? I mean, we're just talking to Graham there. It is an impossible task to do that. But also, do you think that we should be paying for it? The cap, this is, I know it sounds muddled, but this is all joined together, I promise you. The cap on donations as well is being questioned in lieu of MPs' safety. So do you think that donations should be capped or not? They should be allowed to get as much money as they want to from anybody they want to. Do you think that it is reasonable to expect us to cover the costs of securing our MPs? I have no problem when they're out and about. I have no problem when they're doing, I don't know, functions or whatever. There'll be police there. But a day-to-day security for MPs, 650 of them, and then all the past MPs and all of those things as well, is it really a reasonable request? So we'll be looking into that at midnight, and just want to discuss all of these things about the donations. Now, MPs saying, well, we can't cap donations now because that will leave us vulnerable. That means that we won't be able to protect ourselves. And it's the first time we've heard about these political donations being used even for security. It was Nigel Farage talking about it, wasn't it? So anyway, all of that is to come. So make sure that you are ready to talk to me about MP security, whether it's to do with political donations or not, and whether that's a reasonable excuse. None of the parties want us to cap donations. I wonder why. Give me a call, 03444 499 1000.
Here at Talk, we're giving you the chance to win a massive £26,000.
The question is, what would you do with all that money?
I don't know. We've got a wedding.
I would buy a camper van.
Probably just like clothes, yeah.
Go on a big holiday.
Emigrate.
So if you fancy getting your hands on £26,000 tax-free, here's all the details you need to enter.
For your chance to win, visit talk.tv/win or text TALK to 8338 by 6 p.m. on the 20th of July 2026. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or send your name and number by post to Comp 1, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by midnight on the 23rd of July 2026. 18 plus, UK residents only. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 8338 now. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And just a reminder that coming up at the top of the hour, we have Ed Wiseman in the studio to go through the papers for Tuesday. And also, we're going to be discussing the life and times of Sam Neill, who tragically died at the age of 78. But now, God, what a week this is going to be. What a week it's already been, and it's only Monday. It's Keir Starmer's last week as Prime Minister, as Andy Burnham is definitely going to take over next Monday. That's it. There's nothing in his way now. He's now got 349 of the votes to back him, which means that no one else can get 88 of the 403 of them. So, that's it. It's a done deal. We have a new Prime Minister. starting on Monday. He'll be declared on Friday, and then Monday he starts. Starmer has been attending the Coalition of the Willing in Paris, his last sort of swan song, if you like, on the world stage. The sacked former permanent secretary at the Foreign Office now has also launched a legal challenge. Sir Ollie Robbins, who was fired at the height of the scandal surrounding the vetting of Peter Mandelson, is requesting a judicial review of Sir Keir Starmer's decision, arguing that it was unlawful and unreasonable. There's a nice parting gift for Keir Starmer. Meanwhile, the leader of Reform UK has been accused of exploiting the murder of the alleged murder of Ann Widdecombe, while a poll by YouGov found that 6 in 10 voters believe that Nigel Farage has behaved incorrectly over undeclared gifts from wealthy benefactors, and only half of Reform UK voters back him, which could be a major issue at the Clacton by-election. Gosh, what a week. Right, Angus Walker joins me now, former ITN political correspondent. Delighted to see you again, Angus. Thank you for joining me. Where do we start on this? I mean, goodness me. Let's first of all start and look at Sir Keir Starmer's last week as Prime Minister. That's it now, done deal.
Yeah, hi, Petrie. Yeah, incredible, isn't it, really, to think that he stormed into number 10 Downing Street just a couple of years ago with astonishing majority, sweeping away the Tories after years of chaos, as he would say, and promising to bring stability and calmness. The grown-ups are back in the room, people were saying. Well, that didn't last too long, did it? So 2 years later, we're having another change. This will be, what, the 6th Prime Minister in 10 years, something like that?
I think it's 7.
All of them. Yeah, 7 now. And so, without a general election, we have another one coming in without a general election as well. So, he's Andy Burnham's got a short honeymoon, really. I think that's what most people will agree with me, I'm sure, in thinking that he hasn't got long to try and prove himself and try to demonstrate why he's different to the previous 6 who've been chopping and changing, and there's been all the chaos at number 10.
I mean, the interesting thing is that he has really got to introduce himself to the rest of the country, because there's this sort of arrogant narrative that Andy Burnham is this, well-known, well-loved figurehead of politics. And he just isn't. I mean, people who aren't involved in politics or not interested in politics, he's just the former mayor of Manchester. I mean, not everybody knows and already loves Andy Burnham in the way that the Parliamentary Labour Party seem to.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Petrie. I mean, when I was a political reporter, I would often be different parts of the country, often interviewing people, doing vox pops, as it's called, on the street, stopping people in the street, asking for their opinion. And quite right, people don't know many politicians. Ask someone on the street who the Home Secretary is, the Foreign Secretary is. Many people won't know. It's fine, doesn't mean they're stupid or anything. They've got better things to do. We have a system where hopefully politics doesn't interfere with our day-to-day lives that often. So people usually know who the Prime Minister is, and maybe the Chancellor, maybe a couple of other, celebrity-style politicians. But you're right, Andy Burnham, is a legend in his own household, perhaps. And he's got to go out there and prove himself. He's got to get the keys to number 10 and actually show that the one thing the British public have said time and time again that they want is change. Keir Starmer promised change. Everyone's been promising change, but it's not there yet. And it certainly hasn't satisfied the public, because if Starmer had delivered it, he wouldn't be going now. So Andy Burnham's got to prove very quickly that he is finally the person who can bring change. And I noticed some really interesting focus group analysis from the research group More in Common. They've done 11 focus groups in Makerfield to ask the voters there what they want from Andy Burnham as Prime Minister. So what do the voters in Makerfield, his own constituents, want from him as a new Prime Minister? And I was struck by what one of them said, which was they said this is his last chance to deliver change. So I think that chimes with that broader sense that I'm sure you're aware of people who are really sort of rolling the dice with these different prime ministers, different parties, hoping that at some point the much desired change will finally arrive.
I mean, that's the thing. They're not just rolling dice; they're rolling their eyes at how often this. But that is the thing, isn't it? With the public, we have this sense now of everything has to be now. We're not going to wait for anything anymore. We don't wait for our shopping, we don't wait for a car, all of those things. Life has changed, and that is reflected in how quickly we get bored with or fed up with political faces as well. And to that point, you were saying that Andy Burnham's got a very short honeymoon period, because I think that is it. It's like, right, this is it now. We've changed Prime Minister so many times, surely this one's the right one, but he's going to have to come out of the gate with something. And the first indication of what that might be is who his cabinet is going to be. And so far, we've got no nods at all to that.
Yeah, it's been very well kept secret, this impending reshuffle so far anyway. I mean, it's quite incredible it hasn't leaked. But I mean, noticeably, Andy Burnham's been keeping his head down and his mouth shut for the last few days, and obviously wants to go sort of submarine mode and then pop up on Monday with the keys to number 10 in his hand.
Which number 10? Are we talking the number 10 in London or the one in Manchester?
One in the north. Yeah, and someone else said what you really need is a number 11 in the north. But yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that there is a short honeymoon. People are impatient, but I think the real thing, when you look at politics, you've always got to look at the fundamentals. Now, the faces are changing once again. The fundamentals are not changing. We have a welfare bill that's skyrocketing. We have a justice bill skyrocketing. The NHS constantly needs efficiency, needs reform. All these things don't go away. He hasn't got a magic wand in his hand. He might have the keys to number 10 in them, but he hasn't got a magic wand. And so with those fundamentals, as a country, we're borrowing nearly 100% of GDP, the highest tax burden since the Second World War. So where's the money going to come from to deliver change? And actually, as a country, I think we haven't quite got to the point yet where we've sort of hit rock bottom, where we can have the serious conversations about how to change the country and the fundamentals, and not just change the leaders every 5 minutes.
Well, his first test will be the budget, won't it? Because there's rumours abound that he needs to raise 38 billion, and we know that he's a man who is keen on. He's already said that there will be tax. There will be some tax hikes coming through. So if he fails that test that early, it's not looking good for him. I mean, he'll have to be the next in the next election, I would think. I don't think even Labour would be dumb enough to change again. Maybe they would, but it's game over if he gets even that wrong.
Well, this is it. And I think as a country, I think we're going to start having more and more serious conversations about how we fund the NHS, about how we fund the welfare bill. He has two tricky audiences as soon as he becomes Prime Minister. He's got his backbenchers who have already shown they're quite willing to push a Labour Prime Minister around. Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves tried to do welfare reforms. They were stopped. If he tries to do it again, he'll get stopped again. But where do you go with more taxes when the tax burden is so high already? And where do you go with taxes when, as a party and a general election manifesto, you promised not to raise the three taxes that bring in 3/4 of all revenue, national insurance, income tax and VAT. If you're not going to raise those, because if you do, you'll be breaking manifesto promises. If you're not going to raise those, where's the money coming from? It's either borrowing or tax if you want to try to effect the change that you're going to promise. And also, if you're going to satisfy the backbenchers who, once again, have been knocking on the door one after another with their shopping lists.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's move. I'm glad it's not me. It might be my turn next to be Prime Minister, but at least I'm not there yet. I think you're after me, Angus.
Hopefully.
Ollie Robbins, Sir Ollie Robbins, sacked after he was the lightning rod for all the wrath of the Mandelson case. It feels to me like he is entirely justified in coming forward now and saying, well, hang on a minute, I was just doing my job. We don't declare these things to people. But it's not a very nice parting gift for Keir Starmer, is it?
No, it's not. And actually, I think anyone doubting that Ollie Robbins wasn't doing his job probably doesn't know the sort of type of person he is. He is a very conscientious civil servant, and I think in those worlds they do generally do everything by the book. So he probably knew more about these things than many politicians. But he was sacked for apparently not telling the Prime Minister about concerns that were raised during the vetting process about Peter Mandelson and his appointment or impending appointment to be US ambassador. But you only had to read the Financial Times in 2023 to read a very, very detailed article about the links between Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein, the now dead paedophile who was involved in trafficking young girls. So, it was hardly a secret.
No.
So it's got a very good case on paper, I would suggest. And also, it feels as though that since Ollie Robbins appeared before that parliamentary committee and talked about the pressure that was put on him and others in the Foreign Office to fast track, as it were, Peter Mandelson's appointment, it sounds like really Ollie Robbins has been quite fast in assembling the sort of legal team you'd need. And plus he'll be backed by a very effective trade union, which represents top civil servants. I'm sure they've been involved as well. So I think it's going to be really tough for Ollie Robbins to lose this one. And I think it is a real tough parting gift for the Prime Minister. But yeah, Ollie Robbins has a real case and he's going to pursue it, no doubt.
I completely agree with that. I really do. Let's just end with Reform UK and the I don't even know where to go with this. I don't know where to start. But of course, we've got the by-election coming up now. But now these numbers have come out saying that only half of Reform UK voters support what Nigel Farage has done about these donations that he has received. And 6 in 10 voters believe that Farage has behaved incorrectly about not declaring these sums of money. What looked like an absolute shoo-in at the Clacton by-election, now there are 12 runners. I rather hoped it would just be Binface and Farage, but hey. But it's now, it could be a bit dodgy, couldn't it?
Well, yes and no. I mean, first of all, I think the polls are of the country, not of Clacton. It's very, very difficult to do constituency polling. They haven't come through yet. I haven't seen any decent constituency polling yet in Clacton ahead of this particular by-election. And he won nearly half the votes when he won.
Nearly half.
Yeah,
not over half.
Yeah, no, it's 46%, but I mean that's a good enough chunk in the first past the post system. That's going to get you there for sure.
Yeah.
Plus a very high Leave vote in Clacton as well, and he's a very well-known politician. Going back to what we were saying earlier, he has proper celebrity status. Of course, Count Binface is now getting himself much more widely known as well. But it would be difficult. I mean, Farage wouldn't have called it if he hadn't had a decent calculation of his chances. And on paper, we mustn't take the voters for granted. On paper, he has a very, very good chance. And I think also the Binface thing might backfire because there's a certain element of sort of middle-class Britain having a bit of a chortle about Binface, but again, at the risk of taking the voters of Clacton for granted. We mustn't forget there are real voters with real concerns about their local area at the heart of all this, and they will be making the decision. It won't be the pollsters, and it won't be people on a national level, and it won't be people in cities up and down the country having a bit of a laugh about Count Binface. But the problems for Nigel Farage were piling up, and these issues, the £5 million gift, have had serious cut through now.
Yeah.
And for a man who's long campaigned as the outsider, as the insurgent, that's a real problem to have the same kind of stink around him that there has been around the established parties, the established parties he calls the Uni Party, for example, the Tories, and all the sleaze going back over the decades. With the risk is that especially with those voters who have recently come to reform, maybe from Labour, maybe from the Tories, that they will be put off by this and they will start to have their own doubts. I think the reform base is really solid. And if you look at other polls of reform voters and what they think about the scandal, the allegations, they're rock solid. And the base is saying it's a conspiracy, it's the establishment out to get him, and there will be many people within reform saying, well, of course, this just vindicates the fact that we're doing something right. We're threatening the establishment, and they are using dirty tricks to get at Nigel. So actually, a lot of the furore around it sometimes plays into his advantages, to his strengths, because he says, well, of course. And the beauty of saying it's all a conspiracy is that anyone who says it isn't is part of the conspiracy. And so it goes on.
Yes, the MAGA playbook. Angus, it's such a delight. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Angus Walker there, former ITN political correspondent. Just going to run through the other names of the Clacton by-election. Piers Corbyn, Independent. Rhys Cowan, never heard of him, Independent. Nigel Farage, Reform UK. Mr Fishfinger, Independent. Lawrence Fox, the Reclaim Party. Rob Pownall, Independent. Kai Stevens, British Democratic Party. Luke Worley, Independent. Adam Al-Khatib, Forward Party. Mark Berger, Independent. Count Binface, the Count Binface Party. And Cap, Independent. There you go. Quick break. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie here with you, and coming up at the top of the hour is Ed Wiseman. He's going to be going through the papers for tomorrow. Sad news today as we learned that the actor Sam Neill died in Australia. He was 78 years old. Well, the Irish-born actor was well known for starring in Jurassic Park. That's, I think, where most people will know him from, and Peaky Blinders, and he appeared in more than 50 films over his career. A family statement described his death as sudden and unexpected. Well, he was diagnosed with stage 3 I knew I was going to have trouble with this, ganglioimmunoblastic T-cell lymphoma, a rare type of non-Hodgkin lymphoma in 2022. Well, after his cancer diagnosis, he took a short break from acting, and he had announced that he was cancer-free earlier this year. So it really was sudden and unexpected. Well, joining us now to discuss Sam Neill is Sandro Monetti, showbiz journalist and film producer. Hello, Sandro. Good to see you. But sad that it's Sam Neill that we're talking about. What a class act.
It is very sad news, but Sam Neill had one of the happiest lives of any movie star I've ever met. He lived on a farm and he named his animals after his movie star friends. He had a cow called Helena Bonham Carter. He had a rooster called Michael Fassbender. And I'll never forget when Meryl Streep got killed by a ferret. That was his favorite chicken. Him and Meryl, of course, had starred together in movies. He'd done so many great films, but as you correctly say, the one he was remembered for most was Jurassic Park. Quite fortuitous, because the role of Alan Grant only came to him after Harrison Ford turned it down. Yes, because on the back of Indiana Jones, Steven Spielberg saw Harrison Ford as his lucky charm and went to him for that part. He didn't want to go from playing an archaeologist to a paleontologist, so the door opened for Sam Neill, and Steven Spielberg was so glad. Spielberg's been one of the many luminaries leading the tributes to Sam Neill today.
Yeah, it's really interesting. What a different set of movies they would have been if it had been Harrison Ford, because Sam Neill he kind of underplays everything, I think, and that's his genius. He just finds that sweet spot where he doesn't take out. I think Harrison Ford would have become the hero of the piece, and actually he was an anti-hero, wasn't he? The character that Sam Neill played.
Yes, yeah. I mean, Sam Neill, I think his particular gift as an actor was to bring a calm authority to everything. You know, he generally played sort of nice guy husbands, trusted authority figures, but he also had an incredible versatility to him. I first saw him playing the Antichrist in Omen 3, The Final Conflict, which remains to this day the scariest film I've ever seen. He auditioned for James Bond in 1986. I did a screen test for The Living Daylights. As we know, the part went to Timothy Dalton, so how movie history could have been different.
Yeah.
And few New Zealand actors who wasn't in The Lord of the Rings. He was offered a major part in that. I always tried to get him to tell me who it was. Would you have been Gandalf? But, you know, he was very secretive about what the part was that was offered to him, in that he couldn't do it because he was doing Jurassic Park 3 and the dates overlapped. So, yeah, isn't it interesting with movie careers? You know, he might not have been in Jurassic Park, he might have been in Lord of the Rings, but what we do have to enjoy is a great filmography of so many varied and entertaining performances.
And he also just seemed like such a nice guy. I mean, and we don't hear that often about celebrities of his standing. He really wasn't into the celebrity culture. He liked to be an actor more than he wanted to be a star, if I can put it that way. But he brought a lot of his sort of star-spangled glamour, if you like, to New Zealand. The film industry there owe him quite a big debt of gratitude.
They really do. It's kind of ironic that he was born in Northern Ireland, but moved to New Zealand as a child, made his life there, you know, and he did get an OBE in 1991, but he also got a New Zealand knighthood as well. And I just want to take you back to the point earlier you were saying about a gentleman that he was, because looking through the tributes today, that is the word which is used in of the descriptions. From Nicole Kidman, for example, she made her movie breakthrough in the thriller Dead Calm in 1989, and he was cast as her husband in that. Must have been a difficult experience for her, you know, a teenage actress in her first film, but she talks about how Sam Neill really took her under his wing and looked after her and became a friend for life as well. We don't always hear that on movie sets. We often hear about the leading man being threatened by, you know, the up-and-coming rising star actress stealing the scenes. That was never the case. Sam Neill was a very generous actor who was never sort of showy to upstage his co-stars. He let them shine, and they were very grateful for it because he was a mentor to many off-screen as well as on.
He was also a winemaker. Apparently he had a very fine Pinot. that he grew in his place in New Zealand, and he was very proud of that.
You see, this is the kind of thing I would do if I was a movie star as well. You know, sort of take that money and have my own vineyard as well. That was really cool. So yeah, he indulged his passions, his passion for wine. I mentioned his passion for animals before. And it's just, it's just so sad to lose one of the nice guys and one of the greats like this. But it was a life well lived. And, you know, I've spent a life in Hollywood sort of interviewing so many huge stars who are not necessarily the happiest people, but it was always refreshing to meet Sam Neill, because he didn't really have any of those problems. He was happy-go-lucky, and certainly it seemed to me and everybody else who was lucky enough to cross his path that he was very comfortable in himself.
Yeah, and I was reading today that he said recently, he said, "I'm not afraid of death. I would just be annoyed." Because there's so much. I'm not. The death pit doesn't annoy. It doesn't worry me. It's the missing out that annoys me. Because he said there are things I want to do, and that's a really powerful message as well, isn't it? Speaks to the man.
It does, and I think we can all relate to that as well. But you know, I prefer to look back on all the things that he did achieve. I mean, when you look at the trajectory of his life, it's amazing, you know, how far he reached, how many lives he touched, you know, and his legacy are his performances and one of the biggest hits of all time in Jurassic Park. You know, he and that part and that film will be remembered, you know, long after the rest of us have gone. And that is the magic of these immortal movie stars sometimes. I
wonder if he'd have been quite so famous if he'd kept his original name of Nigel, though. Maybe not. Maybe that wouldn't have worked. It's good to see you, Sandra. Good to see you wearing the England shirt as well, because we've got a big match on Wednesday. So thank you for that. Sandra Monetti there, showbiz journalist and a film producer, talking to us there about the sad loss of Sam Neill. Brilliant actor, and by all accounts just an absolutely lovely guy. Coming up at the top of the hour, we have Ed Wiseman in the studio. He's going to be going through the newspapers for tomorrow and the stories of today.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, it is Talk and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And as usual, of course, coming up in an hour's time, it is your chance to talk back. And I want to talk to you about a couple of things. They are connected, but basically it's about the protection of MPs, security for MPs. Rupert Lowe has come out from Restore and he's come out and said that all MPs, 650 of them, should have taxpayer-funded security. I mean, if you just think about the extraordinary cost of that, what kind of security are we talking? Are we talking around-the-clock security at home as well? That's about 6 teams of 2 coppers each. We don't have the resources for that. We don't have the money for that. And are we talking about as well protecting former MPs, such as the late Ann Widdecombe? So, I mean, and that would run to the thousands of people. What about other people in the public eye who get death threats? I mean, what is it even possible? And you've got political parties now suggesting that, for the first time, I think ever, they're linking donors with security, right? So all these. I mean, none of the political parties want a cap on donors. None of them. Don't be fooled into thinking it's just Nigel Farage and Reform. It's all of them. None of them. Number 10's not backing this new bill that is going in front of the Commons again this week about capping donors. And personally, I think it's very clear where I come from on this. I think donors should be absolutely capped. We can't have rich people buying politicians. It is just not acceptable. That's what goes on in the United States of America, and we don't want that over here. So it doesn't mean they're capping the amount of money that political parties get. It just means they can't get it all in one great big wrapped up bow from one person or 2 people, that they have to actually sell their cause to us as individuals, and we then donate. And if enough of us donate, 5 million of us donated £1 each, that would be £5 million, right? So that's what they've got to do. They've got to persuade us to become the donors, and they don't want to do that work. It's as simple as that. They don't want to do that work. But also, it is very intriguing for them to get these huge lump sums, and all political parties do it. Again, I'm not poking at Reform on this, although Nigel Farage is in trouble, of course, not for getting the money, but for forgetting to list it, to register it. So let's not forget that. It's not about the 5 million. It's about the fact that it wasn't registered. So they just want to get these lump sums because it's easier for them. They can get millions of pounds from one person as opposed to persuading millions of people to give a couple of quid. So I personally think that they should absolutely be capped. I don't want politics like there is in the United States of America. But now they're using security as the reason they shouldn't be capped. That it shouldn't, none of it should be capped. I'm not buying it. But I'd love to hear from you, because it's not just about my opinion. I very rarely actually give my full opinion on a topic before I talk to you. But on this one, I feel quite strongly. So, but you can tell me if you disagree. You know I take calls from people who disagree with me. I'm quite happy to have a discussion with you if you've got a different take on this, a different point of view on this, why you think that it should be okay that you know 1 or 2 rich people can donate money to whoever they want to. Then that's absolutely fine. We'll have that discussion. But also, do you think that we should be paying for the security of MPs, and while we're at it, former MPs as well? Former Prime Ministers get security for life. That's just, I mean, Liz Truss, she was only in the job for 43, 4, 5 days, and she gets security for life as well. Again, I have issues with that, not just Liz Truss, but we already pay, and it's okay if we only have one Prime Minister every 5 years. But currently we're on 7 in the last 6 years or 10 years, something. I mean, that's a lot of former prime ministers to protect. So yeah, we're notching up the numbers here. So give me a call. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Those calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. Well, joining me now to go through the papers and to discuss that story is the man who is wise.
Hi, Petrie.
But, I mean, obviously, whoever knew you were going to be a wise man, Ed Wiseman, transport and travel journalist.
Here I am.
Here you are.
Here with some wisdom.
What do you make of this? The fact now that all these political donations now are being linked with security. I've not heard that before.
I think it's a bit daft. I think the whole thing's a bit daft, and I think the call for security is posturing rather than anything realistic. The level of security that would be required to prevent a committed murderer from taking you out, which it sounds a bit like this might have been, is really quite serious and very expensive. Yeah. And the possibility of doing that not only for all 600 and whatever sitting MPs, but also every living MP who has sat. That must be thousands.
It must be thousands.
Several thousand people with round-the-clock security. I don't think that's...
I don't think I mean, that would take over the welfare budget, the NHS budget.
Certainly.
We haven't got the police either.
No.
There wouldn't be enough.
Or the people that I would trust to sort of stand outside my bedroom door at night to potentially ward off an attacker. And also, for every MP who has enemies or someone who is likely to come and wish them harm, there are hundreds more who haven't really done anything. You know, the sort of slightly forgettable backbenchers who are the
we've
MP
all forgotten
for somewhere. And they did perfectly well with their constituents, and now they sort of judge the Marrow contest and maybe they captain the second 11. And they're not in need, really, of...
Yeah, so how do you choose?
Exactly.
So then you have to go through a selection process.
The ones who've said something controversial, the ones who have beef with other people.
But you don't even have to say anything controversial. I've had rape threats, death threats, and not even saying anything. Yeah,
it can just be.
It can just be somebody who just hates you.
I think Ann Widdecombe was more prominent. One of the more prominent ex-MPs, I would say. A household name.
I think so. Yeah.
So maybe if you're going to.
And she's controversial.
And
you know, has said things that people vehemently disagree with. But how do you judge that? You know, and then you get somebody who is off the beaten track, who's nobody remembers, being murdered for something that they did in a shop.
Yeah.
So you can't be then selective as to which MPs get it and which MPs don't. It would have to be a blanket.
How many MPs have been killed in the past 30 or 40 years?
Well, that's what that really actually, when Nigel Farage says he's the most threatened MP, I mean we've had 3 killed, haven't we? Joe Cox.
Joe Cox was one.
As well as Stephen Timms was stabbed, wasn't he? David Amos was killed as well. So there's you know, you wouldn't have imagined that either of those two would have been on anybody's hit list.
No.
So and would around-the-clock protection have... I mean, maybe it would have done in David Amos's case, but I don't know.
But in practice, the whole point of a constituency MP in this country is that they are accessible, they will sit down in front of you, go to their surgeries, and they may be flanked by staffers, but they're not behind bulletproof glass.
No.
If you wanted to kill them, you could. That is the quid pro quo of being accessible, I suppose, in that one in a billion chances that you're going to end up with somebody who is not only a nutter and wants to murder you, but is also happy to wait in the civic centre for their turn to have a chat with you.
Yeah, and there's enough people who are being murdered by strangers in Civvy Street. They don't... Are we all going to have, you know, bodyguards and protection?
I
mean, that's the whole thing. It just becomes ridiculous, doesn't it, at some point?
I think, really, murders are the job of the police, regardless of who you are. Stopping murders, preventing people from being killed and investigating that kind of thing is kind of... I feel like I should be extended that courtesy by the police to some extent. I should probably, you know, not have to worry too much about it. And for the most part, I don't think they do. I don't know. It would be really interesting to hear from any MPs not trying to make a name for themselves, just like the normal quiet ones, to find out if they feel under threat or at risk.
But I think that a lot of people feel under threat and at risk,
Yes.
who aren't even in the public eye.
No.
You know, you speak to any parents of teenagers at the moment and they'll be like, well, yeah, I could do with some security for my kids, thanks very much. So that's sort of the point that I'm making with this, is that people say this to me all the time. You chose to be in the public eye, therefore you take the rough with the smooth, whatever. The fact that I just kind of fell into this and this is the only thing I can do has got nothing to do with it. But to a degree, yes, okay, that was my choice. So politicians also choose to be where they are, and that's the career that they want.
Yeah.
Not that anybody deserves to be threatened, but just the point I'm making is there are a lot of people who feel threatened and they're not in the public eye.
Yes. I would wager, perhaps I'm being flippant, but I imagine that being an MP is markedly safer than a lot of jobs.
I would agree.
In terms of your likelihood
being a nurse, being a transport, somebody on transport.
Yeah, being a bus driver, or being anything that faces the public in any sort of any regular capacity. Not to mention, you know, lumberjacks, fishermen, all that kind of stuff. Lots and lots of people do very risky jobs, and are just expected to kind of suck it up.
Just get on with it.
Often for £20-something thousand.
Yeah.
So I think if you're one of the people who sort of mans the gates at a tube station at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're much more likely to come to harm. Someone's much more likely
with that.
to pick a fight with you. And I think if you're on 90k or whatever the MPs are on,
they can afford to get a cab.
I think they can afford to get an Uber home, and they can afford to have a big house with a gate and all that kind of stuff. And for the most part, that's probably fine. But then maybe there's an MP listening and thinking, who's this guy who doesn't understand what we go through every day? I think it's hard to sympathise when, like you say, lots of people really are dealing with awful people every day. If you work in a hospital, or if you there are just lots of, even if you're a paramedic or a fireman, people they get attacked, and they get attacked sort of for even more spurious reasons than political gripes.
Now, I don't think it would be a very popular. I could be wrong. I'll challenge that at midnight, but I don't think it would be a popular decision.
No.
I mean, was it Jackie Smith who went walkabout in London wearing a stab vest? Do you remember that? Surrounded by police and wearing a stab vest. And the backlash from that was, well, first of all, you're walking around. I can't walk around there, but you're walking around with 6 coppers around you and a stab vest on, and you're trying to tell us the streets are safe.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? It completely backfired.
That was years ago.
That was a long time ago.
It was a very long time.
But it's an image that's sort of stuck in my mind as the hypocrisy sometimes of politicians who say, oh, it's perfectly safe, and then wear a stab vest and surrounded by coppers. So I think that was one of those illustrations of MPs sometimes being out of touch.
Well, the whole MPs being out of touch is kind of the flavour du jour. They always say very peculiar stuff that I'm sure does kind of rankle with people on the actual front lines. These key workers who are being sort of spat at and abused probably have a very raised eyebrow when they hear some random rich MP saying that they need to have bodyguards. But then the threat levels are changing, and people are doing weird stuff, and social media is riling people up to commit crimes that they presumably would not otherwise have attempted. And maybe the life of a cosy backwater MP is not as cosy as it.
Oh, maybe, but I mean, I think that every woman alive at the moment knows about extra security that they have to take, and extra decisions of safety that we have to take on an everyday basis, and have done all of our lives.
But would you like 2 bodyguards? Would that help? Particularly?
I wouldn't, frankly, because I'm antisocial and I have to talk to them.
Make them tea.
Yeah, make them tea and stuff. No, I don't. But that's what I'm saying, is that actually security is a personal issue, and a lot of people take their personal security, because there is no other help, very, very seriously. The people in the gay community, for example, they have to be cognizant of where they go and who they go with, and how gay are they being, or how, are they holding hands with somebody. So we all have to we all take personal responsibility. As a woman, you go and put petrol in your car late at night, and you're constantly, looking around. If you're walking home, you have your keys. So all of those things. So I just think that actually, if you are an MP, and like you said, they're not short of a bob or two, then maybe they just take care of their own security, which they have been doing. You know, we all have to.
Historically, certainly.
Yeah.
And maybe if it's getting too hot, I don't know what the solution is.
No.
I feel as though...
I don't suppose many of them do public transport late at night, though.
No, a couple of them did quite prominently, didn't they? Boris was often on the tube.
But he would have had security.
He would have had security.
He would have had his security guards
now.
with him.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, also that was a bit of a different thing. I do agree with prime ministers having security. I think that's probably for the best.
Yeah, but like I said, that's okay when we've only got one every 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. It's much cheaper.
Not 5 every 1 year.
It's much cheaper. and I think there's trust. Yeah. Now, if we are going to get into the habit of voting a new one in every couple of afternoons, then we
need to really reassess that.
Yeah. But until we, maybe we'll find some stability in one of the next 3 or 4 prime ministers that we try.
This also brings me to Sadiq Khan,
oh, yeah.
who is always banging on about how safe London is and that he's made it safer and all that kind of thing. And yet he hates cars and he wants everybody on public transport. He drives around London in not just one, but 2 £350,000 Land Rovers or Range Rovers that are bulletproof with security because he's had death threats.
Yeah.
I've had death threats. I'm going to demand that.
You've just got your Mini.
Yeah, I've just got the Mini, and it's not bulletproof.
It's not bulletproof at all.
It's definitely not.
Open that thing with a tin.
But you see what I mean? This is so Sadiq Khan goes, everybody needs to be out of their cars, but I've had a death threat, so I'm going to have not one, 2 with security who will drive him and his dog to the park so he can take his dog for a walk with security
because
he's had death threats. That's a lot of money. So are we going to do that for everybody?
I mean, I don't think there is enough money. We would have to sell the family silver in order to...
And I think if Sadiq Khan is telling us it's safe, he should walk.
You think you should walk the walk quite literally if you're talking the talk?
If you're saying that it's safe, prove it.
I also wonder what the relationship is between death threats and actually getting murdered.
Yeah.
I feel as though death threats are kind of tenner-penny. Lots of people
are
receiving death threats, but how many people have actually been murdered as a consequence? Still upsetting, still terrifying.
It's not very nice, which is why I don't go on things like Twitter anymore.
Or the internet at all. No, exactly.
Because I don't want to read it.
No, it's completely understandable. It's unpleasant. But I wonder if death threats, in the age of death threats, whether we should take them with as much gravitas as perhaps we once did. In the days of the Troubles, when a death threat, a bomb threat meant something. There were code words. There was a system. There was a protocol. Whereas now, any Tom, Dick or Harry can
just say it.
Anybody, I'm going to come and kill you.
Yeah.
Should we be taking that with a bit more of a pinch of salt than we used to?
Yeah, the threat that I got that scared me the most was, I know what you look like, you don't know what I look like, and all it takes is a cup of acid.
Right.
That was a particularly lovely threat.
Do you think that they were ever going to follow through?
I don't know. I was nervous about walking past anybody with a cup without a lid on it for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You just sort of
is it that guy?
skirt round them.
But then they probably don't live anywhere near you.
No, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah.
But that is a particularly nasty one. But yeah, I mean, it just makes you even more. Well, I think that's why I'm such a recluse, Ed.
Possibly.
I just, I know my dogs aren't going to do that.
No, exactly. You can trust those guys.
I can trust those guys. Right, so give us a call. What do you think about MPs' security? Should we be responsible for their security, as we are in London, for Sadiq Khan? Maybe you think they should all get that. Do give me a call, 0344 499 1000, and Ed and I will be back in just a moment with the papers.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie, and with me to go through the papers this morning, no, is it this morning yet? No, it's not. This evening is Ed Weissman, transport and travel journalist.
Hello.
Hello there. Right, the Times, let's start with that. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps banned from operating in the UK. Now, this has been called for a very long time, and Keir Starmer has announced that Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, will be banned from the UK and formally designated as a threat to national security. So this is after some threats under the new National Security Act.
Yes, and anybody expressing support will be liable to prosecution.
Right.
Which I think makes it even more of an interesting story.
It is an interesting story because, it tramples on some people's idea of free speech.
It does. 14 years is the penalty for expressing support.
Just for saying I support them. Goodness me, that is a long time. But a lot of people will think that this had to be done and should have been done some while ago, actually.
I mean, there is a wider conversation to be had about who the enemy is.
Yeah.
There is an acceptance that there are baddies out there. And that we have state threats, but it's quite ambiguous because on the one hand, China, the enemy, but on the other hand, China. Makes all of our stuff. We kind of want. Yeah. And you know, the very difficult realisation that there was the allegation that some of the dirty money in politics was leading back to the Kremlin, for example.
Absolutely.
And whether the arson attacks on those ambulances was in fact this IRGC. Which I think there are lots and lots of is the uncomfortable truth that the Salisbury poisoning was just one example of foreign operators in this country killing people on British turf, and I think we are slowly waking up to the idea that there is a conflict, and that these groups are operating in Europe and in the UK, and they're doing bad things here. So it stands to reason that there will be legislative efforts made to stamp it out.
Yeah, and there's another group, isn't there, that's been prescribed, the Islamic Movement of Companions of the Right, which has claimed credit for 7 anti-Semitic attacks.
They were the ones who burnt the
ambulances.
Possibly burnt the ambulances, and I think that's I think it's a bit of a bitter pill to swallow for a lot of people. I think we like to pretend that kind of stuff doesn't happen here. But when confronted with the evidence that it very much does, we kind of don't really know what to do about it. The Cold War is over, obviously, so that kind of stuff doesn't go on. There's
another group as well, 3 groups today. That is the GRU, Russia's GRU, Volunteer Corps, a formal group of volunteers and mercenaries who are controlled, coordinated and overseen by Russia's military intelligence agency. And, there's been those attacks on Keir Starmer and things like that, so I'm guessing they're looking more closely.
I must admit, I don't fully understand what the purpose of this legislation is beyond being sort of totemic, representative of, is it how symbolic, is it how likely is it to actually stymie the activities of foreign agents in the UK? It does obviously impact people who are expressing support, who are not totally uncommon. There are people out there who are either
I suppose
it's
it's to stop fundraising for them as well, and things like that.
And I mean, I don't know how many people were fundraising for the GRU, or whether that is something that happens here, or whether it is one of those, like in the States, they ask you if you're to declare your income from crime so that they can nail you for tax evasion at the end of the year, like they got Al Capone. Whether this just opens up some booby traps for people.
Yeah, because I'm not sure. But
it's interesting. I think really it's the recognition that these groups are operating here, and that there are state-funded,
really
state-backed, quite serious. And I think it's easy to dismiss some of these happenings as being quite bit part. It could be anybody. It could just be a disgruntled randomer with a Molotov cocktail. But actually, when you trace the chain of command back, it points to exactly who people think it is. It's a far clearer cut case than sometimes is reported. Especially, I mean, going back to the Salisbury poisonings, that was just such it's the brazenness. And it does happen. It does go on, and I think we're in a very difficult position in describing who our enemies are.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Also,
and there are new enemies every day.
Even just saying the word enemy sounds so ridiculous when we feel like we're living in a time of peace. It feels like a non-conflict situation.
Yeah, I wonder if this is more performative than actually meaningful.
Maybe. It's possible. But on the other hand, why wouldn't you? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what difference it makes, like you said, but the other story on the front of the Times for Tuesday is Widdecombe murder case taken over by terror police. Material found at suspect's home has led to reappraisal. So it's being treated as politically motivated. That this is what the Times is saying. And interesting, because right at the beginning they said it absolutely wasn't politically motivated.
It was a very interesting drip release because it was clear quite early on that something had happened, but it wasn't announced. She was announced to have died, and given her age...
Yeah, a lot of us just thought, oh, she's died of natural causes.
Exactly, and I think that was left to fester for a while.
Till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which is unusual. I think it was treated as suspicious, and even with all treated as suspicious doesn't necessarily mean murder.
No.
They were really sort of stringing everybody along, and by the sounds of it, it was obvious from the get-go what had happened.
There's something very. I mean, I can't. There's an itch in my brain that I can't scratch about this whole case. That I can't join the dots. I'm finding it really difficult to try and figure out what's actually going on.
What's actually happened?
Yeah, because the original arrest of the 26-year-old, for example, arrest, release, and completely cleared.
Yeah.
So clearly somebody in the area had made some comment, and maybe he was known to authorities. This is absolutely just me guessing, and so they thought, right, he's the local, in trouble, we'll go and arrest him. But then they said they had CCTV of the car outside her home, and I thought, well, why wouldn't you check that before you arrested him? There's an itch.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel it as well.
I think the same.
Journalistically.
It's very interesting, and I think at the moment there is a real emphasis on disclosing information before speculation builds, partly to stop people like us from doing what we're doing now, but also because online it takes less than a second for something very stupid and very damaging to happen, whether or not a murder has taken place. Like the Nicola Bulley case, there were people turning up.
Absolutely, and this is why we're saying alleged murder. This is why we're saying alleged suspect. This is in all of these things because. But there's something.
Yeah, and I think it must be very difficult to be the press officer for a police force.
Impossible for the police because we want to follow it second by second.
Yes,
and we shouldn't be able to.
But, no, exactly. But partly because of contempt of court laws, and partly because of due process, and partly because. In the name of the investigation, it is presumably not desirable to just blurt everything that you know out to the local populace simply because they're curious.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a public interest, especially when the victim is well known, to be very transparent. I don't think that they should hide behind things or just be very po-faced. I think the public do need to know about this kind of violence and about what is prompting it and where it comes from. But at the same time, they do need to be left to kind of do their jobs. But I totally take on board. I completely agree with what you're saying. There is a missing link here.
There's something.
The way that it's been PR'd and spun to the press, as well as as the way the press have had to treat it for a lot of reasons, does kind of leave a lot more questions unanswered. And as you say, their decision making to have gone from this is definitely not terror related, which was a press release. They said that to try to allay some of the speculation, and then to have to go back on that is It was a fumble. But then if what they're saying in this piece is true, and I'm conscious that there are things that we can't say, that I think probably ought to be careful-ish. But if what they're saying is true, and that the terror link came to light after they found out who it was, and they searched their accommodation, and then found something that linked to terrorism, which again is a very broad.
It's a very broad.
It's a rapidly broadening.
And it gives
term.
them 2 weeks now.
It does give them 2 weeks. But what you and I think of as terrorism is possibly not what this is.
What they're describing.
When I think of terrorism, I think of the IRA.
Yeah.
I think of Al-Qaeda.
Think of 7/7.
Exactly. I think of that kind of stuff. And actually, it is a very.
It is a broad brush. But yeah.
But no, very interesting.
we're not. In fact, we're the opposite of speculating. We're saying that there's something.
Yes.
You know. I don't know. I think I've covered so many of these stories in my career. They normally follow a reasonably similar pattern, and there's just something.
I think as well. In fairness to the police, they didn't say it's not terrorism. I think they said something like there is nothing to suggest.
There's nothing to suggest,
and there
at
wasn't
this
at
point.
the time.
Yeah,
so it's
absolutely.
not like they lied.
Absolutely. No. I think that they've just followed. They've just been following the evidence. It's just there's something about it that's.
But no, it's a very interesting. It's a very interesting case.
Yeah.
And I think that unlike some of the clearer cuts murders of prominent politicians and former politicians. Whether be it by nutters or by very targeted sort of actors, I think this is it's just a very interesting challenge for the police and the media.
Absolutely, I mean, it really is. And at the heart of this, of course, there was a very scared 78-year-old woman on her own in her home.
Exactly, exactly. And I think
whether you agreed with her or not, that's not.
In a sense, that's what's been sort of sidelined in all of this.
I agree.
I think she's been turned into a bit of a political football in the few days since her murder, her alleged murder. No, I think it's a very sad case.
It is really sad. I mean, whether you agreed with her or not, that is not anybody's idea of how anybody should meet.
No, and what's interesting is hearing that there is a degree of unanimity in that.
Yeah.
That's not how. But there are plenty of voices sort of cheering it on.
I know.
Which is
just disgusting.
Well, I mean, it kind of shows. To me, it feels like the times have changed. There should be more united messaging.
The decency and the decorum is
This
gone.
isn't how we do politics.
Yeah.
In this isn't Mexico. You know, we should consider ourselves a country where politicians are not in danger of being murdered in their homes.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting listening to some. I say some. It's internet people. Who are
just going to jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, let's take a quick break, but Ed and I'll be back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. This is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you, and with me, Ed Wiseman, travel and transport and travel journalist, I should say.
Here I am.
Let's have a look at let's actually look at The Guardian, right? And tributes to Sam Neill. Died suddenly and unexpectedly, so his family say, at the age of 78. He died in Australia. Irish-born, with the name Nigel. Nigel Neill was
Nigel Neill.
Yeah, and he, even when he was at school, he decided that wasn't a very cool name, so he changed it to Sam. I think his nickname was Sam for some reason.
He lived a very cool life.
Very cool life.
There's a lot went on there.
Yeah.
I don't think 78 is quite young.
Yeah.
But it was that was a good. He packed a lot in there.
He did pack a lot in there, and he always seemed to be very happy and such a real charmer.
Yes,
really nice
very
guy.
upbeat.
Yeah,
and I think people liked him.
Yeah, anytime I've seen him being interviewed, he was always very jolly.
And he kind of kept himself to himself.
Yeah,
considering his position in sort of Hollywood
because I think
stardom.
he wanted to be an actor, but not a star.
Yes.
And so
hard
he was
to do.
very hard to do. But he seemed to manage it by sort of moving to New Zealand and keeping out of the sort of Hollywood
farmer,
set.
basically.
Yeah, basically.
No,
with
very
his
impressive.
animals called. What did he have? Helena Bonham Carter. He said it'd be rude to eat Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah,
and that was a great quote that came out.
Yeah.
She was a cow.
Oh, a cow.
I think she was a cow. No, I think that there was a chicken. There was a chicken called Petrie Hosken, not sadly by Sam Neill.
Okay.
So there was one of my listeners at the other radio station I worked
told me
at.
that.
Yeah, called their
me
chicken Petrie Hosken.
Petrie Hosken. Good
Probably
name for a
dead
chicken.
by now.
Possibly.
But yeah, I know he named Sam Fassbender, I think, was a chicken.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, and there was another. Kylie Minogue might have been a chicken as well. I can't remember. But yeah, he named them all. He named. I think that is absolutely brilliant.
Yes,
Helena
I think so.
Bonham Carter must have been thrilled to have a cow named
I would
after
be
her.
delighted.
I'd be absolutely thrilled. But it is sad, the fact that he had just declared that he was cancer-free, and so this would have been a shock. But of course, all the treatments that people have with cancer are very, very difficult. And maybe it was one of the treatments. I don't know. The other story: Widdecombe deaths inquiry being treated as a terror case, and then Trump renews threat to take control of Hormuz. Now, Donald Trump has once again threatened to take control of the Strait of Hormuz and is going to demand 20% in tariffs. Now, that goes against maritime law.
It does. It does. No, it definitely does. Although there were considerations of letting Iran do it. So I think.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, does maritime law matter anymore if we're?
Well, it should, because that means that every other waterway that isn't man-made will now be subject to tariffs, and that will send inflation skyrocketing. There are a lot of people going, well, it doesn't affect me. Yeah, it does.
Oh, yeah, it'll affect
all of us.
But every time somebody drops another sea mine in the Middle East, it affects us in some small way. Yeah. It's a really rubbish time to be a mariner, I think. I think it's the poor schmucks on the ships that get a raw deal.
It just makes me so angry, because Trump is saying, well, we're the country that are going to be henceforth the guardian of the Strait of Hormuz, and we're going to charge for that. It was open.
Yeah, it was fine. It was fine beforehand.
It was fine. You're not the guardian of anything.
And also, I think the longer they are there, the longer there will be conflict there.
Oh.
That's one of the downsides. And I'm coming at this
guardian of the Strait of Hormuz.
Entirely as a transport and travel journalist, it does feel like this has been cack-handed a little bit from a purely infrastructure perspective. Yeah. Like this was a real fumble.
I mean, to put it mildly.
And I think it's going to.
And we've all got to pay Donald Trump 20% now, because he's going to keep the strait open when it was open before without any tariffs.
Yeah. No, I mean, I share your frustration, but also we're already paying quite a lot more for everything because of the impact that this one relatively narrow stretch of water has on global trade.
And he was warned about it and didn't care.
It was a bit like the ship in the canal the other year. I mean, there are so many pinch points around the world that you just have to dent the process very slightly, and suddenly,
but there are lots of waterways we rely on that are by maritime law open without tariff, and the only ones that are tariffed are the ones that are man-made.
Yeah.
It's like a toll, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Precisely
Elizabeth Bridge and the toll.
And I think the Panama Canal takes a bit of. It doesn't just stay like that. You have to.
There's a bit of work goes on with that. Yeah.
I mean, they have to close the Blackwall Tunnel every week. I mean, imagine what you have to do to
that is true.
To Suez.
That's true.
It is challenging, but no, I think this would be a very dangerous precedent to set.
Did you say dangerous president?
But yeah, exactly, precisely. Your words, not mine. No,
exactly, my words. The Telegraph. Let's have a look at that. Now, all of the papers so far, actually not the Guardian, but a lot of the papers are showing an image of Jude Bellingham. Who is the young football player, 23 years old, England World Cup star, sitting in a swimming pool.
In a jacuzzi of some sort, and they all seem to be running this one publicity shot.
I don't know why.
I don't know why either. It's odd, but then we do it with young actresses the whole time, and I think that always sells.
He's certainly got his fans.
He does have his fans.
He does at the moment.
Millions of us. At
the moment. Until Wednesday, if he fails, then we'll all hate him.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it goes.
That's how it goes.
To be a 23-year-old football star.
Yeah, that's how it goes. A couple of other interesting stories here, and this actually gets my goat as well. Miliband willing to approve North Sea oil to land a job as a chancellor. Yeah. Where are his principles? I thought he was a principled politician who wanted net zero, who demanded net zero, but he'll sell it for job as chancellor.
Yeah. I mean, they're all careerists, aren't they? You don't get to where you are.
But how can they be so blatant and not expect us to get angry with it? This is a man who's going, oh no, we can't have boilers and you can't have aircon and you can't have anything.
Yeah.
But I'll sell my soul for a job as chancellor.
I mean, they'd all sell their soul for something. They'd all
scumbags.
They'd all sell their soul for
scumbags.
Yeah. I don't know.
Again, my words, not Ed's.
I feel like Ed Miliband is. He's at least reasonably consistent. Some of them.
But what's this then? This is a complete hypocrisy.
It is. But do you think what's worse? Do you think this is worse than the minor MPs you get taken to one game at the Oval and suddenly they're
all bad.
In the pockets of a gambling firm?
I think they're all bad.
Yeah,
I think all of it. I don't think there's a scale. I think they know the assignment. Yeah. Just don't be a lying, hypocritical scumbag.
I don't know.
And stick by your principles.
Yes. But it's amazing how easily some of them can be bought off.
Oh, my God.
It's amazing. It is amazing.
For a cup of tea.
The direct... It kind of is. Yeah,
I mean, really?
Exactly.
Oh.
You could also argue that he's pivoting to pragmatism. And that
no, he's pivoting to...
I think so as well.
To ego.
I don't know. It's very odd.
It's just...
I think to be a politician, and especially a politician of his standing, he's been in politics for years and years. You do have to be quite egotistical. You do have to have something aside from your principles.
Blatantly hypocritical.
Yes.
It's just they just take us for suckers the whole time.
Or do they just not care? He knows that the Telegraph will run this headline.
He doesn't care.
He knows that the Guardian won't, and he knows that his base will still like it.
I don't know what base.
Well, no, I think he does have his fans. He does have
his...
He? Yeah, I think
well, so. in the renewables businesses, probably.
Possibly. I mean, and maybe...
The general public, I can assure you, really
maybe
not.
He's just going to bail out and go and get a cushy directorship at
some windmill farm.
Some big energy company. But then, I don't know, a lot of people do that.
Get a windmill job in Old Amsterdam.
In their lives, yeah.
This is an interesting headline, which actually belies what's underneath it, and that is no hosepipe ban if you're on benefits. And so this is going to make people really angry. When I first read it, I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. Why? Just because you're on benefits? This is about people who have whose illnesses or medical conditions that involves a lot the use of a significant amount of water. Now, it's not really a hosepipe ban that they're talking about, because I doubt that people with disabilities are out in the garden hosepiping each other. But it is people who are using more water, and of course a lot of people are on water meters.
Yes.
But they're saying that if you're on medical benefits and you need the water, you will not be capped, basically.
Yeah.
So it's a headline designed to cause friction.
Yes. It's very Telegraph 2026.
It really is, isn't it?
It really is a spin on something that is not deserving of as much outrage as they're obviously going for. I think as with all of these things, concessions for disabled people are quite a difficult thing to get angry about, and I think this is a very reasonable concession. I don't really understand what disabled people are doing with all that water, but if they need it,
but if
fine.
they need it, they need it.
I don't
right?
think it can. I think sprinklers are still verboten. I don't think you can have a sprinkler on your lawn just because you're disabled.
Cambridge Water is enforcing similar exemptions that applies only to water-shore customers whose disability makes using a watering can very difficult. 4 other water firms only allow exemptions from blue badge holders or those on the Priority Services Register. Other dispensations can be issued because of health and safety concerns, the welfare of animals, or for new lawns.
Yeah. This is benefits of various sorts being used as a proxy for need. So it's not that you need a hose pipe because you have a blue badge. Yeah. It's that if you have a blue badge, you are more likely to have a requirement for using it. So yes, I think
absolutely.
I feel like I've been in this game for long enough to kind of be able to read through the nonsense in these articles. But it is amazing how much vitriol can be generated.
But it's also how much further down in the article you've got to get before you get to the truth.
Page 705.
I know, and then you get the actual reason.
It's a headline looking for.
Yeah, it is. It is for anger. Quick break, and Ed and I'll be back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you, and with me is Ed Wiseman, transport and travel journalist. Let's have a look at the I paper. The exclusive they've got on the front here is that Farage declined taxpayer-funded security, calling the offer inadequate. Now, the reason that that is interesting to me is because he said that he wasn't offered any security, and that's why he needed money to pay for his own security. I thought that was the whole crux of the point.
Yeah, we don't know when this was, what order that took place in. So it's possible that he wasn't lying at the time, or it's possible that maybe he thought that whatever the security offer that they were putting on the table didn't
But you'd still
constitute-
take it, right? I mean, you top it up with your own security, maybe. But if
I don't know. I don't know if he genuinely does feel under threat or if it's just a grift, which seems to, that the victim card seems to be very popular at the moment.
Yeah.
A lot of people are playing that game of sort of, look, I'm a big target. My haters are out to get me. Somebody did throw a milkshake at him a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But we've had other MPs who've had eggs thrown at them.
Yeah,
They've
exactly.
had, you know, Prescott, wasn't it?
Prescott thumped the guy, didn't he?
Yeah.
That was. I mean, there have been all sorts of stories like that. I don't know. Again, we're going back to what we were saying at the top of the hour, which was like, why would we do this? Why would we?
Yeah.
Why would we put it on the country's tab to protect these people from the occasional flying milkshake?
And actually, Farage, on the occasion of the milkshake, did have his own security, so that proved that wouldn't have made any difference if the police had been. What
are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. But this disclosure raises questions over Zia Youssef's claim that the state is providing no protection whatsoever for Reform's MPs following the death of veteran politician Ann Widdecombe. So
I think,
the
protection
offer
from what?
Yeah, the offer would have given Nigel Farage a similar level of security that is provided for the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch and several high-profile cabinet ministers. So no more, no less than anybody else is getting. But he didn't like it. He didn't want it.
I don't know. I think in practice he probably is not worried about the kind of threats that this security package would protect him from.
Yeah, I don't know. So again, something's not quite. Anyway, Daily Star, there's only one number 10. Not as from Friday. There's going to be 3. There's going to be Jude Bellingham, number 10 in London and number 10 in Manchester as well, apparently, according to Andy Burnham. But anyway, this is about Jude Bellingham.
It is about Jude Bellingham, as is every other newspaper, pretty much ahead of Wednesday night.
Wednesday, 8 o'clock kick-off.
Yes.
And it is Argentina and England. I mean, I'm amazed that we've got this.
We're going to lose on penalties, aren't we?
I mean, I have been saying that for the last couple of games, to be perfectly honest. So maybe, who knows?
Who knows? It could be our year.
It could be our year, and it could be an England-France final. Wait and see.
That would be.
It's France-Spain tomorrow, isn't it?
I think so. Yes,
Yeah.
I think it is.
I think it's France-Spain tomorrow. Tuesday, if you're listening on Tuesday morning. But yeah, I think that it's we've had a good tournament this far, but there have been a lot of shockers, haven't there, in the tournament as well.
There have been.
Real sort of
some real howlers.
Wow.
Did you see that FIFA was looking to expand next year?
64.
Yeah.
They're just money grubbers.
Pretty much all of them. Yeah.
Really money grabbing.
It might be good. It might work. You never know. Some random.
But how many weeks would that go on for?
Well.
Was it 32 this time? Was it 32? I think it was 32.
It was. Yes. No, it was more than that. Was it 30?
I can't remember.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
And it's been dragging on. But maybe you just do more matches in less time.
Well, what country is going to be big enough to host all of that?
Well, it's over 3 countries, isn't it, next year? It's over Morocco, Spain and Portugal.
Oh, they'd have to have a lot of stadia.
I don't know how many stadia. I don't know how many stadia there are in Morocco, but I think Spain has a few.
Well, we'll see. And of course, we're up against Messi.
Yes.
And there's a great headline on The Sun. He's not the Messiah.
But Jude can be.
It's good. I think that's
well,
good.
as long as everyone's having fun with headlines.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's not the Messiah, but Jude can be. So we'll see, up against Lionel Messi there. And the Express and the Mirror both showing Jude Bellingham sort of naked from the water up.
Squinting into the sun.
Squinting into the sun, relaxing before the game. I mean, extraordinary. That we've got that far.
Yeah.
There's the story that I did want to talk to you about. A couple. Here we go. And it's the Daily Telegraph, as we're at the end of the paper review now, roughly. Sources of pride. Which is the best British condiment?
It's a classic food listicle, this one.
Yeah.
And
what is your favourite condiment?
I had a really nice portion of English mustard earlier. I think I'd go for. I think if
Would you go for it? Do you use the powder?
No,
and water it?
I get,
that's really strong.
Get it from the jar. I just get a small jar. Condiment-wise, I think.
And mustard that'll last you what, a year?
No.
No.
I eat it far too quickly.
Ah.
I go through a real glut of thinking, I'll have it with everything. But what constitutes a British condiment? What do we know?
Well, I don't know.
I can't find the picture, but do they have pickle?
They have Branston pickle on the picture.
Condiment? I suppose.
I suppose so.
And HP.
Coleman's and HP sauce.
Yeah.
Of course, there is Daddy's as well.
There is Daddy's.
And they haven't put tomato ketchup on there.
There's a couple of other ketchups. There's a mushroom ketchup that's very famous. It's very tasty. It's actually good.
Is it?
Good. Yeah, it doesn't taste like mushroom.
And then why is it mushroom ketchup?
I don't know. I guess they just didn't. Maybe they didn't have tomatoes back then. I've got no idea.
Oh, okay.
But no, I think HP sauce is nice.
And what about the Branston pickle? I mean, you've got so many different grades of Branston pickle.
They really have expanded.
Expanded.
I think they're trying to. They're spreading themselves quite thin, so to speak.
I used to work for a TV company where the Branston pickle office was next door, but we never got any freebies. I was also always hanging around waiting to see, because they have the chunky, the sort of slightly chopped up, and the one that's pretty much like a sauce.
Yeah.
Like that.
Depending on your mood, I suppose.
So, Heinz salad cream has got to be on the list.
But Heinz is American.
It's I don't buy it anymore, you see. I'm not allowed to, so I'm eking out the last of it.
I don't know if there's a plucky British upstarts ready to...
Let's hope so.
To do salad cream.
But I like French mustard. I mean, I cook with English mustard, but I use the powder.
Okay.
And if I want mustard, then English mustard, then I mix it makes it a bit more pungent.
Yeah, you can really make
horseradish.
It taste delicious.
Delicious.
I wouldn't be able to name a horseradish brand though.
That's true.
I don't think. And mint sauce also great. I assume that's English.
Yeah, and condiment. I mean, how can you have a favourite when you're talking? It's to do with what you're eating, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to have mustard with fish and chips.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What about, I'm looking forward to it.
I have a suspicion I know who will have written this article as well. So
oh, do you?
I can WhatsApp him on the way home and find out what.
Why don't I get articles like this? That'd be great.
Yeah, honestly, some of the best ones I've done. I've written all sorts of interesting food.
And do you just get to buy it all, test it all?
Yeah, sometimes they send it to you. It's great. It's terrific. A real hack for you there. Get a job on a national newspaper and
as a food critic, as a food
writer. No, I think.
And you call them listicles.
Yeah, when it's just like top seven whatevers. I did one quite recently that was the top. It was the top foods that haven't changed, the recipes that haven't changed since their inception. Because a lot of food has become a lot worse. You read the ingredients and it's completely different to how it was when it was first invented. It's got sort of xanthan, garlic, dextrose. But there's a lot out there that still is exactly the same.
I'm going to look up that article, Ed. I want to know what you thought.
Type in my name and then something really stupid afterwards. Something will come up.
Ed Wiseman, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Petrie.
Right, over to you next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a very good morning to you. It is Petrie here with you now until 1 o'clock. So we have a full hour together. It's going to be interrupted just a little bit with, I want to just head off to the US and ask about the Senator Lindsey Graham. So we're going to be doing that because it's a good time to get US guests. Right, so I want to hear from you in this hour about the suggestions that are now being made that our politicians, our MPs, should have state-funded security. Now, first of all, we're talking about, I don't know, what, 650 MPs currently? Well, what about former MPs? What about them? Should they get security? MPs like Ann Widdecombe. So I'm just really interested to hear from you, because the kind of security that might satisfy them is around-the-clock security. Or just let's take the example of Sadiq Khan, who has bodyguards, 2 armoured vehicles that drive him around London at a vast expense to the capital, right? So are we talking about that level of security? Now, as far as I'm aware, Sadiq Khan has never been attacked in person, but he has had death threats. But he's not the only person who's had death threats. Almost everybody I know who's in the public eye has had some kind of threat or other. So we don't demand or expect security to that degree. But I don't know, you know, Sadiq Khan somehow manages to get that level of security. Maybe he needs it, I don't know. And I would, you know, disagree with him or not, I wouldn't expect, I wouldn't want anything to happen to him or any of our MPs or former MPs. But how can we afford to supply state-funded security to all of these people? Now, ex-prime ministers get it, which I said is okay if there's only one every 5 years or so, but we've had, what, 7 in the last 10 years. So, I mean, that suddenly, that is a huge expense. And it doesn't matter if you're prime minister for 43 days or whatever Liz Truss was, you get that level of security, and they go all over the world with you, and that's all paid for by us, right? So all of those ex-MPs now, PMs, sorry, have all got that level of security. So, okay, so that's just something that we pay for. But should we be paying for the security of all MPs and, I guess, former MPs? And who do we decide who needs it and who doesn't need it? I don't know. I don't know how you make that call. So it just seems to me to be a preposterous suggestion, but maybe you think that in this modern day world, we absolutely need to be protecting our politicians. The other question that I have is because for the first time that I've ever noticed, we are now equating donors with security. And I think that must be because of Nigel Farage, when he said he got this 5 million donation. And like I said, nobody cares that he got 5 million in donation. We're not bothered about that. The fact is he didn't declare it. And the question is, should he have done? Well, that's up to the investigation when it resumes. That will be the question that they're asking. But he said that he needed that money for security, right? And the fact that George Cotterill, Posh George, had already been paying for his security has also raised other questions. So now political parties are saying that we shouldn't cap donations because it leaves them insecure. Well, political donations is that what they're for security? The political donations are for the party. I don't know. I mean, I'm getting very confused by this whole sort of narrative around this. And I'm also absolutely convinced that we should be capping donations so that any one individual can't donate more than a certain amount of money, to be determined, right? Some people are suggesting $1 million, some people are suggesting 100,000. And the Representation of the People Act bill comes before the Commons again this week with 2 caps suggested, and indeed one of them is $1 million and the other one is 100,000. And I absolutely believe that political donations should absolutely be capped. Some people are suggesting they should be scrapped entirely, but then the taxpayer would have to, I guess, fund that. But it doesn't stop them getting donations. What it stops them from doing is getting donations from 1 or 2 incredibly powerful and incredibly rich individuals who may require a favour or 2 in return for that donation. And what they would have to do is, rather than get 5 million from one person, they'd have to get £1 from 5 million people, right? So nobody's suggesting that they shouldn't have these millions of pounds in donation, just not from one person or one business or one entity. That it should absolutely be capped. I mean, when we look at what's going on in the US, with political donations and businesses and media companies. The reason America's in a whole heap of pain at the moment is because the media companies are all involved. The tech companies are all involved. They're all backhanders, money flying around in order to get rights to merge with each other or whatever. They donate to Trump, but political donations going to Trump, and then lo and behold, criminals are getting pardons. Is that what we want in this country? And whenever America sneezes, we catch a cold, right? We are right behind them. And I don't like the direction of politics in America, the fact that they can so easily be bought and sold. I think that is a disaster, and we should not be anywhere near that. So my belief is that political donations should be capped. And I'm thinking nearer to the £100,000 mark than the £1 million mark. But I tell you what, none of the political parties, not any one of them, wants to see a cap. What does that tell you? I mean, that tells me immediately that we should be capping it, right? The fact that none of them want it, that they should be capped. So, obviously, Labour doesn't want a cap because of the unions. The Tories don't want a cap because they've got some really rich donors. The Greens probably don't. Nobody wants a cap on it, which is exactly why there should be one. If they've got to sell their story to millions more people and get us to give £1 each, so be it. That way we know that nobody is buying our politicians, and they shouldn't be allowed to buy a political party or a politician or anybody. That's why. That's what I believe. If you think I'm wrong, you are much more than welcome to give me a call and let me know. But I do think it's interesting that not one political party is backing the idea of a cap on donations. Tells me everything I need to know. Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. And also the idea that these donations suddenly are closely linked to security. It's a new thing, isn't it? It's a new one. Right. Over to you now, and Mark is in Lincolnshire and joins me now. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Petrie. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. I've got a bit of a runny nose, though. I think it's hay fever. It's been all day. It's annoying. Anyway, my apologies for that. What do you make of this?
Well, yeah, I mean, the first thing Farage talked about after he came back in politics, when he took over as leader in Reform, was the very first thing he actually talked about. He gave a speech about, and it was a whole article on it, was about unlocking Britain to crypto. Weird, that, isn't it?
Slightly coincidental.
Yeah, it's very coincidental. They have a whole really quite, it's one of their only detailed policies is crypto.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And he had a meeting with the Bank of England about it.
Indeed.
Yeah. All coincidence, though. I mean, we can't be saying that it's anything more than that.
Whatsoever. I mean, this whole thing about security and donations, that to me just stinks of cover.
Well, it seems opportunistic, maybe. I don't know. Nobody can seriously believe that the country should pay for 600, and even if we were paying for 650 MPs, that wouldn't have saved Ann Widdecombe because she's no longer an MP. So would that be extended to former MPs, in which case we're talking thousands of people?
Well, this is it, isn't it? I mean, when I was taken aback a little bit when I read Nigel's reply to Shabana Mahmood earlier.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, he's happy to talk to her about, himself and the Reform MPs, and also other political figures in the party. I'm like, are you what? I'm thinking, so exactly how much is this guy thinking that the taxpayer's on the hook for here?
Yeah.
It's like, come on, this is getting ridiculous. I mean, there's one thing you can always be sure with politicians. They're always quite happy to shove their noses a little deeper in the trough.
Yeah. And get something that none of us can have. Right? I mean, that's the thing. They're not the only people who are threatened, but they seem to be the only people that they think need to be protected. There are other public servants who are threatened. There are nurses, there are doctors, there are paramedics, there are firefighters, there are police officers. What are we going to do? Give police officers their own police officers to protect them? I mean, there's a lot of public servants who do a good job for the public and they don't get protection. So I'm a bit confused as to why MPs think that they should have it when others don't.
Well, exactly, Petrie. I mean, I'm all for, if there's an MP that's got a serious problem going on, significant death threats, this kind of stuff, all the rest of it, fine. I don't really have a problem with them getting protection by the state. Really do not have an issue with that. But that's got to be such a low number. It really does.
Well, it's a disproportionate number of women MPs, actually, who are threatened more than the men. But, yeah.
Well, that stands to reason. I mean, looking at, when I was listening to Peter's show earlier before yourself, Petrie, and you mentioned this article in the iPaper about, Farage, I think last year being offered essentially...
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly the same security support as Kemi Badenoch will get and as any other, opposition leader or high-ranking minister. And he turned it down.
Exactly.
Which said it wasn't good enough.
What is this guy, what do you want? Is he like wanting a detachment of the SAS to be with him 24/7? It's like, come on, man. This guy is... he's clown world, to be honest. That's how I feel about Nigel Farage. But it just seems crazy, and I can't help but be quite cynical at this point, because I'm starting to feel like this is starting to get into the realms of being used as a distraction for the distraction, if that makes sense. He's getting investigated. He calls a by-election. Everybody calls him out on it, so he's now made to look a clown in that, and he's getting a lot of grief in Clacton as well as anywhere else, from what I can gather. And now he's suddenly gone, poor Anne's gone. She's been murdered. And now all of a sudden he's using this whole security thing to distract from... Because if you notice, they've all been going on about it over the weekend.
Yeah.
And it's like...
But it's a justification for the donations, isn't it? Being cynical myself, I'm looking at that, and they're looking at this terrible, tragic murder of a 78-year-old woman in her own home, and suddenly that becomes justification for this is why donations and security are being linked together. I've never heard it before. Have you?
No.
Political donations and.
I mean, it's like, well, I mean, my initial thought when you were doing your monologue there before you came to me about donations, if a businessman or a corporate entity, whatever, is donating £5 million to you, they want something for it.
Well, I mean, again, we have to be careful here, but he says, no, it was all without strings, but... Yeah.
Oh, come on. I mean, we live in the real world at the end of the day. I mean, people don't... If he's never come back into politics, then everything he's kind of said previously about this would kind of fit. It would be fine.
Yeah.
But as I think you and I spoke about this a week or so back, I stand by my original position on all this. If there was nothing to hide with any of this, then just declare the bloody thing.
I mean, that's the thing. Nobody is suggesting that he shouldn't have this money. Nobody.
Exactly.
That's up to the inquiry to figure out, right? If it had just been declared, and he was told, they're all told to err on the side of caution. Yeah. And if you're not sure, just declare it, and then you can't be accused of anything. That's it. Simple as that.
Precisely. Yeah. I don't know what it is. He always seems to feel like he plays by different rules or something. I don't know, because he does tend to sell this to his own voters.
Yeah, and yet it says, one of the articles that I was reading earlier on, is that 6 in 10 of the public think that he's done the wrong thing by not declaring this, and even half of Reform voters are saying the same thing, because at the end of the day, when he came out and was saying, do you remember last week he was saying, people have a problem with politicians earning money. And it's like, no, we don't. I mean, that's between you and Clacton. If you're too busy earning money to go and help your constituents, that's between you two. I don't care if you earn it. I care if you're given it and don't register it. I don't care if you earn it. I couldn't give a damn about him earning that gold money or whatever he was doing, selling gold. That's fine. Whatever, £22,000 an hour, great, good luck to you. I wish I could get that sort of money. Nobody cares about that. But that was at least declared.
Yeah, well, this is it, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing that I always think as well, it's just... When you... There's no way on this earth he didn't know that he had to declare it. It's absolutely... It's crazy.
Well, he says he took legal advice and that he didn't have to declare it. It was a gift. But again, the rules are very specific. Gifting is kind of limited to family and loved ones. If they'd bought him a car, he wouldn't have to declare that. But yeah, I mean, I suppose it's like the MPs over their expenses, though. Do you remember that? When they said that they didn't, they were within the law, but not the... I can't remember. They were within not the meaning of the rules, but they kept to the rules, and the rules were there weren't any rules. Do you remember that? That was their argument. Oh, we haven't done... Mind you, a couple of them went to prison for it. So,
well, I mean, they'll always do shady things. As I said before, they're quite happy sticking their noses deeper into the trough.
As long as we pay for that trough, yeah.
Yeah, precisely. This is the thing, isn't it? But the thing that I don't know what the word I want to use for this is. I don't know whether it annoys me as such, but it's something that I've seemed to have noticed today, and that is, regarding Ann's murder anyway, is, when I stepped back earlier and I was looking at it on the round, looking at the MSN coverage, looking at the social media coverage, looking at even what the police have come out with multiple times, how that's all changing every 5 minutes. And I've got to be honest, it's starting to feel like, and I feel so sorry for her family, I really do, because this is starting to feel like some kind of episode of Wycliffe or something. You know, it's getting ridiculous. You know, it's like, just stop making statements about it. You know,
until you know for sure. Yeah.
When you're ready to charge this guy, if you get to that point with this particular fella, then tell us what the crack is. You know,
I completely agree with that. I mean, I think that they fumbled it by making declarations early that may turn out to have not been the case, and you know, there's something odd about all of this. I stand by that. I've got an itch in my brain that I can't reach with this whole story, and I think a lot of people are feeling that way as well. But listen, at the heart of it, there was a 78-year-old woman on her own in her home who should have been safe, who is now dead. And whether you agree with her or you didn't agree with her, that's the point of this, and we've all got to remember that. Mark, it's lovely to talk to you. It always is. So thank you very much indeed for calling in. I'm going to take a quick break, but I will be back in just one moment.
Here at Talk, we're giving you the chance to win a massive £26,000.
The question is, what would you do with all that money?
I don't know. We've got a wedding.
I would buy a camper van.
Probably just like clothes, yeah.
Go on a big holiday.
Emigrate.
So if you fancy getting your hands on £26,000 tax-free, here's all the details you need to enter.
For your chance to win, visit talk.tv/win or text TALK to 83338 by 6 p.m. on the 20th of July 2026. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or send your name and number by post to Comp 1 PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by midnight on the 23rd of July 2026. 18 plus, UK residents only. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. Good morning to you. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you. And this is your Talkback Hour, and we are talking about MPs' expenses being capped. There's a bill coming before the Representation of the People bill returns to this to the Commons this week with two amendments. One of the amendments is that a maximum donation should be £1 million, and another, which I still think is too high, and another recommendation is that it's £100,000, which I think is probably about right. But neither of these amendments is supported by Downing Street, and funnily enough, none of the political parties are keen on having a cap on political donations, which, like I said before, tells me everything I need to know about political donations and their need to be capped. But now these political donations are being linked very closely with the security of MPs. Restore, Rupert Lowe has suggested that the public should pay for the protection of MPs. I think that's probably current MPs, but Ann Widdecombe was a former MP. So do we extend it all the way to everybody? And while we're at it, what about other public servants who do a job for the public? Because that's their reason. Well, we do this job for the public, and we've got to be out in the public. Well, so do nurses, so do paramedics, so do firefighters, so do police officers. What are we going to do? Give police officers their own security? It's just, what is the excuse? Why? That's just the question. So should taxpayers be funding this? And the other question, and they are linked because it's been linked by MPs and politicians, that donations should not be capped because that puts MPs in danger. I've never heard it before, but there you go. So I'd love to hear from you on this. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. Tristan is in Southend. Good morning, Tristan.
Lovely.
How are you?
Good morning. I'm all right, thanks, Petrie. Yeah.
In lovely Southend.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Lovely Southend. It was glorious all of the last week for sunshine.
Oh, it must be. It's a pretty place
to visit. It's not bad.
It's a pretty place in the sunshine, actually. If you get away from the main strip and go to where the yacht club is, down that bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really lovely down there. Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah, glad you've been. Okay, so Petrie, being from Southend, we've seen what happens when the nightmare occurs, because we lost our MP to terrorism. That was David Amos. David Amos, yeah. I don't mean to be deliberately graphic, but he was stabbed over 70 times.
Gosh.
In his surgery when he unfortunately met his end. So for me, I think we do actually have to start considering providing someone or two people with a taser to escort MPs at certain functions and duties, and maybe outside their properties. I'm not talking about great big SWAT teams and helicopters flying over or anything, but just a couple of private security guards who are trained to use a taser to defend the MP that they're representing. And I would also apply it to former MPs, because Sir David's replacement, I've always worried about her. Even when she was in office, I emailed her a couple of times, wrote to her and spoke to her about it. And she always assured me that she was doing her best with the security, and now she's been replaced as well. And I'm worried about David, the new David, who's the MP. But we've got to look after them. I mean, yeah, it's very easy to hate on them.
No, I mean, the only point that I'm making is that you know, I suppose there is a really sort of febrile atmosphere in the country at the moment, and I get that, and MPs. But we've also got other public servants who are public-facing who are not protected, and they get attacked, and they get death threats as well. I think I probably agree with you in terms of when they do their surgeries, that maybe there should be some. But I don't think I agree with you about outside their properties. I mean, I'm very aware of my own security, so I've taken care of that. You know, at the lower window, I've got bars on there. I've got an alarm. I've got dogs. I've got, all these sort of things. And I remember one time when I was on a particularly nasty hit list, I had a hotline to the local police station. And I did have to use it once, and I was, I heard somebody shooting outside on my terrace, but not at me. And I made the point of saying, "Oh, this isn't at me. You know, I've just heard a gun." And I had practically a SWAT team turn up, and it was just like, because I'd phoned the local police and said, I think I just heard a gunshot, and so they immediately assumed it was me, and they shut the road down. It was very dramatic, and I felt really embarrassed. So MPs could probably have that.
Yeah, actually, that is a better idea, actually.
Or a red button that they can push, an emergency hotline to the police, rather than having full-on security. And people do kind of tend to take care of their own security, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got the tragedy with Ann Widdecombe this week. And I am sorry people have been attacking the media. The media have a job to do. And if it wasn't for the media, how would we have known that there was a manhunt underway?
Yeah. I mean, people always attack the media, and that's fine. I suppose it's
grossly unfair.
It is, because without the media, we wouldn't know about a lot of what the politicians get up to either.
Exactly.
You know, it's been some fantastic investigations by a couple of papers recently, and thanks to them, we know what we know. But look, there's a lot of hate in this world. I get that, but I don't see what separates MPs from other public servants.
Well, I'd agree with you as well. Can I just ask, Petrie, who did you have in mind when you say that?
In terms of public servants?
Public servants, yes.
Well, I suppose, I mean, paramedics, for example, they get attacked. Nurses, the violence against nurses, judges. You know, there's a whole load of public servants that deserve protection that don't get it. And so, you know, I don't know what singles out MPs as being more special public servants than a nurse or a firefighter.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with you.
That's kind of what. Where do we stop? You know, where does this end, and at what cost? I mean, nobody wants to see anybody being attacked or killed or anything like that. I don't want to see anybody being attacked like that. But we know that there are people who are vulnerable because they're public facing who don't get the sort of security that Rupert Lowe is talking about.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, you're absolutely right. In full agreement here. Totally.
But really sad about Sir David Amess. He was a lovely guy, apparently.
He was, I tell you, I say it affectionately, Petrie, he was daft as a brush, and he was so funny. And if by any chance Lady Amess or Katie, his daughter, are listening in tonight, I just want to send my love to them. They're not forgotten, and we're all thinking of them. We always will. Oh,
bless your heart, Tristan. You're such a darling. Thank you for your call. Yeah, it's very sad. I mean, look, some security I absolutely agree with, but I think what Rupert Lowe and others are talking about is just not feasible. Quick break. I'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good morning to you. This is Talk, and I'm Petrie, and it's a small interlude now from your calls, but I will go back to your calls in just a moment, because I wanted to talk about some of the news that is happening in the US at the moment, and thrilled to say that the fabulous John Mysick joins us again, politics editor at masslive.com in Boston. Much to discuss. Thank you very much indeed for joining me again, John. Good morning. Let's start with Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham has died. He was 71 years old and a very controversial figure in the Trump, the Trump world, I suppose, is the best way to put it, in the GOP. What's being said about Lindsey Graham?
You know, the tributes to Senator Graham have poured in, Petrie. So too, unfortunately, are the people who are kind of darkly celebrating his passing. You know, I remember running into Senator Graham on Capitol Hill when I was covering Washington in the mid-90s. He was then in the U.S. House of Representatives, hadn't been elected to the Senate yet. Pretty clear, even in 1997, that he was a man tipped for bigger things. You know, it's funny to think about, as close an ally to Donald Trump as he was, and he definitely was, he was also once best friends with the late Senator John McCain, who Trump had derided as a loser for being in prison during the Vietnam War. There was a group called the Three Amigos. It was McCain, Senator Graham, and the late Senator Joseph Lieberman, a Democrat. So he was part of that circle. And Senator McCain's daughter, Megan, wrote a really touching tribute in the Washington Post on Sunday. You know, Senator Graham was a consummate political operator. His number one priority was to bring home the bacon for the people in South Carolina, to advance his goals. And he was a person who knew that you had to be close to power to do that. And so when Donald Trump came to power, he made the choice to be close to Donald Trump, sometimes telling reporters that the alternative was that he couldn't get his stuff done. So I guess there's a certain degree of realpolitik there, but you wonder what it cost in conscience and reputation.
Yeah, because he was anti-Trump, wasn't he? I mean, he was, again, you know, liked Joe Biden, for example, and he's completely flipped the coin. And it's an interesting thing in politics, because you do that at your peril. Right? I mean, you've got J.D. Vance, who was a never-Trumper, Marco Rubio, who was a never-Trumper. They were, you know, viciously anti-Trump. And even Pete Hegseth was very anti-Trump when he was at Fox. But they flip. And that politically looks like a weakness and not a strength.
And it's not so easy as it used to be, where you had some degree of plausible deniability back in our pre-digital past. There's always a tweet, there's always video, there's always audio. And that's something that none of those men have been able to run away from, and something that they will have to explain probably, you know, for the rest of their lives in politics, if not the rest of their lives entirely.
Yeah, I mean, Lindsey Graham was controversial, wasn't he? He was controversial in his unwavering and undying support for Israel, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you would be far hard-pressed to find a voice on Capitol Hill who was more pro-Israel than Senator Graham. You'd be hard-pressed to find a voice on Capitol Hill also who is more pro-Ukraine than Lindsey Graham. So you can sort of weigh the two of those against each other, depending upon how you feel about either country at any given moment of the day. Certainly, the senator is kind of the Ukraine whisperer and the Israel whisperer in Donald Trump's ear. His absence will be pronounced there, particularly in the case of Ukraine. He had a very productive and apparently breakthrough meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky on the Saturday before he passed.
It's about Russian sanctions, wasn't it?
Exactly right. Yeah. So that's going to create a real gap. It's also going to create a real problem for President Trump on Capitol Hill with his passing. There's a very slender Republican majority as it is. We're still waiting for Mitch McConnell to return from the retirement home, because now we apparently have photo proof of life. And then we now have also the senator's sister being appointed to replace him, at least for the duration of his term.
Yeah, I'm going to come to Mitch McConnell in just a moment. But again, with Lindsey Graham, he was quite a war hawk, wasn't he? I mean, he about Iran as well. I mean, many of the speeches that I saw him making, he was a firebrand for war. He seemed to really support the idea of America's involvement in these wars.
Again, he was quite hawkish, and part of that, as I said a moment ago, was him sort of triangulating what best served him and what best served the people of South Carolina. He knew his proximity to power enabled him to bring stuff home for his state, enabled him to pursue his own policy goals. But there's no doubt that he was defiantly hawkish, particularly when it came to Iran.
Now, as you said, his sister, Lindsey Graham's sister, will temporarily take his seat. But does this expose Trump to losing a Republican senator in a way that will affect him?
It's hard to imagine, on balance, them losing that seat. Darlene Graham Nardone, Lindsey Graham's sister, is a political newcomer. She's a mom of two, has no prior elected experience, and will serve out the balance of his term.
And they're allowed to do that? They're just...
So under U.S. law, American state governors can appoint somebody to fill out the unexpired portion of a sitting senator's term. So she will serve out Senator Graham's term. The only qualification is that they be a resident of that state.
Wow.
Under the U.S. Constitution. There's no, resume test or litmus test or anything else.
Wow.
Under state law as well, they have to hold a special primary election in August to find a permanent nominee who will stand in the November general election. Senator Graham won his primary a few weeks back and was poised to run for re-election in November. There have been a number of names mooted. It's not clear if Darlene Graham Nardone will stand for a full term. She's not talking about it. One of the people who has been mentioned, and you may know this name and your listeners may know this name, is Congresswoman Nancy Mace, a very loyal pro-Trump voice who gave up her seat to unsuccessfully run for governor. She's been mentioned as a potential replacement. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens in these unfolding weeks.
American politics never cease to amaze me. Let's have a look at...
Me too,
yeah.
Petrie.
Let's have a look at Mitch McConnell, because there is such a whirlwind of controversy and conspiracy around Mitch McConnell. I mean, the idea that a lot of people are saying that this picture that was his proof of life picture is faked, that it actually comes from 2024, according to the newspaper that he's holding, where there's a story in there that was printed in 2024. A lot of people saying if he's that well, he's in hospital after a month of no sign of him, and he's wearing jeans and a shirt, and lots and lots of questions being asked about Mitch McConnell, and why isn't he doing a video? Why hasn't he mentioned Lindsey Graham? What is really going on with Mitch McConnell? Why is there such a whirlwind around this story, John?
It's the silence. The silence is deafening, and into that space has rushed all manner of speculation that he's dead, that this was AI. That he's he's fully dead, or that he's brain dead, is incapacitated and unable to serve. Again, there's been no video, as you've said. Two Republican senators who have spoke with him said each spoke to him for 20 minutes, not 21, not 19, not 18, not 70, but 20 minutes in full blocks. And then, President Trump, when he's asked about it, said, "I have no idea how his condition is."
Yeah, that was odd.
I mean, they're not buddies by any stretch of the imagination, so let's be clear about that. But the sheer silence surrounding this, as was the case with Congressman Tom Keene of New Jersey, who went in for treatment for a month for depression and then suddenly reemerged, and there was no information about that either. We are in an age now where we're used to knowing everything about everything at all times, and so the silence here kind of runs counter to what we've become, I think, accustomed to. And certainly the people of Kentucky deserve a explanation about their elected senator's status. The governor,
and have somebody who's actually supposed to be working for them.
Exactly.
What's the significance if Mitch McConnell isn't as well as that picture would tell us? I mean, is there a reason that they would want to keep it quiet? Is there a reason? What is it, again, because of the slim majority?
Well, exactly right. I mean, the thing that is precarious here is that Todd Blanche, who is Trump's pick to become U.S. Attorney General, his confirmation vote hinged on Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, and one of them is now completely not with us, and one of them is on extended injured reserve. And so, that throws that nomination into doubt. There are other bills that need to be passed with Republican votes. And, that the math of that now is exceptionally difficult for Republicans. And if it comes down to it, you'll probably see the vice president casting a tiebreak.
Again, absolutely fascinating to me. And just finally, the Iran war that was over that was won on day 2, I think. Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth are again bombing Iran. It seems to be at a very delicate stage. But Trump now is suggesting that he's going to charge tolls in the Strait of Hormuz, which would be contrary to international maritime law.
Yes. The president's suggesting a 20% toll on ships passing through the
to
strait.
pay the Americans for keeping it open when it was the Americans that closed it.
Yeah, consistency is the goblob, whatever that saying is, Petrie. But more importantly, a 20% toll on goods passing through, on energy and other goods passing through the strait, which is one of the main trade thoroughfares in the world, is going to mean higher prices for everybody else, including gas and resources.
Including Americans.
Including Americans who are going into an election where affordability is the #1 issue on the agenda.
So presumably this continuation of the war in Iran is a disaster for Trump.
It was off, and then it's back on, and there were sanctions, and there weren't sanctions, and now there are sanctions again. Nobody in this country likes this war, particularly. It polls terribly. Nobody understands why we're there, nor what the end game is. I had a conversation with a member of Congress last week about that very fact, Jamie Raskin, the Democrat of Maryland, senior on the Judiciary Committee in the House, that this war was never explained from the outset. The goals were never outlined. There was never a congressional authorization for it. That everything that could have gone wrong so far has gone wrong. And we're just going to sort of plod along with it until such time as, I suppose, we're not. But no one's really clear on when that's not going to happen either.
Thank you. John Misek, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning. And we'll be speaking to John fairly soon, I imagine, because the American politics are absolutely almost as fascinating as our own. Quick break. I'll be back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a good morning to you. This is Talk and it is Petrie here with you. Kind of a couple of messages that I want to read out. Ernie says, who's going to pay for all the party's expenses like posters, TV and radio exposure, constituency buildings, security? Do we want the taxpayers to foot that bill as well? Nobody's saying they shouldn't have donations, Ernie. I guess you're referring to the cap. But what they need to do is what other countries do, and that is ask 5 million for people for £1 each rather than one person for 5 million. I mean, it's as simple as that. So, you know, they just have to work harder at getting donations from more people, perhaps by doing their jobs properly, maybe. That might secure them those funds. Joanna says, capping donations is a good idea, but it should be more like France. No big companies are allowed to gain favour by big donations, but neither are unions. Unions pay Labour some 10 million a year, which is why they don't want a cap. The first thing Labour did was to give union members huge pay rises and change strike laws that benefited them, including minimum service levels and a 12-week limit, and you're absolutely right. But that's what I'm saying about these donations, is that it makes the political parties so dependent on them that they will do what they need to do in order to keep those donations flowing, and that is not what we want in our democracy. And Anthony says, I'm afraid the kind of world we live in today, if some nutter wants to get you, they will. Look at Trump, 1 centimetre from death, and look at the security he has. I don't think there is the kind of level of protection that these MPs are talking about. I don't think it's available. I don't think it exists. So it's a good point, Anthony. Thank you. Right, another Tristan now. Tristan in Bedford. Morning, Tristan.
Morning, Petrie. I was just laughing because you were saying if they actually did their jobs properly, and then they would actually get donations from normal people.
Yes, they might, right? If the constituency MPs actually did their jobs.
No one ever said that. I've never heard anyone say that. But that did actually make me chuckle, to be honest with you. It's very true.
It's true. Yeah.
It's simplistic, but it's true.
Just do your jobs properly, and then people might want to donate to your party. It's not difficult.
I definitely think you touched something on there. I think you're right. I don't think the security they want is available. No. But as I said to your researcher, I said to him that basically the thing is, if the police actually enforce the law and people are actually prosecuted, people then would have the deterrent would be enough, so you don't get nutters that want to go and do these ridiculous things. The other thing is you've got so many, I hate going left and right, but so many on the left that keep using these problematic and inflammatory words. If you're calling someone a Nazi and a fascist, and you've got someone that's heavily unhinged, they're going to think, oh, well, reformer Nazis, I should kill them. And that's how people...
I agree. And I think that kind of narrative... We've seen it in America as well, right? Yeah, this name-calling, this Democrats, you know, all of that. I mean, it is disastrous for security, that sort of thing. But I also think it cuts both ways. You know, you've got people on the right saying, well, this is the left, you know, soft left touch. That's why we've got so many immigrants. It's all their fault. Mm-hmm. So, you know, the mudslinging and the name-calling has got to be reined in, because like we've seen in the US, we don't want to go down that road. We really don't.
No, and it is, I mean, you know, it is starting to get a bit dangerous, as you said, with Nigel Farage. He didn't know what was going to be in that milkshake. That could have been... It could have been acid.
Yeah, but he did have security with him.
He did.
So that security wasn't... I don't know what... This is a point I'm trying to make, is I don't know what kind of security they're talking about. You know,
I agree.
Nobody's going to be 100% safe.
No, but as I said to you, I mean, if they actually did enforce the law and actually did give a proper deterrent, this situation wouldn't happen. But the thing is, you have to think about the situation with Labour is they change laws and give money away to buy votes. I mean, it's so. I mean, my taxes are basically paying for immigration. That is what my taxes are paying for, same as yours are. It's predominantly immigration, and people that, you know, who are being given, they're thinking, oh well, I'll keep them in, so I'll vote for them. You know, it's so clearly.
Well, yeah, I mean, politics like charity begins at home, right? People tend to vote for what they think is what would benefit them the most, which is why pensioners are very rarely touched, right? Because they know that pensioners go out and vote. They've always voted. They come from a generation, particularly the women, where they value the vote and they will never not vote. And that's why none of these politicians, left, right, or centre, will touch the triple lock on pensions, right? I mean, Andy Burnham might at his peril, but this is, and everybody votes in their own interests. So when you've got donors that are piling in millions and millions of pounds to a party, it can only go one way. That's my fear with donors.
I can understand that, but I mean the other thing is as well is that apathy is going to be a big winner in the next election. Less and less people are voting, and the thing is, with Labour alienating people so much, more and more people aren't going to vote. I mean, I didn't really take voting that serious until I got a little bit more older. And politics to me didn't really seem that much of a big deal until obviously I having to start pay bills, pay rent, and all the other stuff. And then suddenly it was like, hang on a minute.
Which, by the way, why 16-year-olds shouldn't get the vote.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's buying votes. It's buying votes.
It's buying votes.
Buying that influence again.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting thing though, isn't it? With this joining together donors and security, and I think that's a really odd thing to
happened before.
Never happened before, right? I mean, donors were one thing, security was they were never put together. But no one's saying that they can't have donations. It's just, I fear for like we had Elon Musk who wanted to donate 72 million to reform. That changes things in a way that is not right. It's not.
No,
it's not fair.
It moves the market.
It really does. That sort of money.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely moves. It absolutely moves the market. And if you've got someone who's putting that sort of money in, well, the amount of influence it's going to make on top of the advertising and everything like that,
absolutely,
is going to make a huge difference.
So, I mean, my view is that donations should all be capped, and then, like I said, if you want money, go and prove to the people that you're worth it.
I agree, and I think there has to be something has to change, because we are hitting to that point where it is getting things are getting unsustainable, and with the next general election coming up, I dread to think how bad it's going to get. To be honest with you, I really do.
Well,